This boy named Changshan has high level and impressive stat, and he just loves picking fights. He clings to satisfy his ego. But when he picks our guy for a duel just because he has a lower level, things don't go the way he expected. But our guy stops it like it's nothing, taking 0 damage. All thanks to one of his skills that allows him to nullify his opponent's first attack. Changshan is shocked. He's never even heard of a skill like that. Before he can recover, King Tasan prepares his own strike, multiplying his attack power by 2 with his skills and ignoring his opponent's defense. From the very start, it looks so terrifying that Changshan begs him to stop, but it's too late. The guy smashes him straight into the ground with such force that it cracks beneath them. King Tasan is so OP despite his level because he has more than 200 skills. The defeated boy can't help but cry about this unfair world, where he grinded levels for nothing. You see this whole thing with skills. Levels and monsters started when the labyrinth appeared. It has 4 difficulty modes: easy, normal, hard, and alone mode. And the harder the mode, the better the rewards and level up opportunities. Our guy cleared it on E, but his level and stats still aren't that impressive compared to others. When he returned to Earth, things weren't rosy at all. Waves of monsters came one after another, wiping out countries and cities. So here they are now, a bunch of the strongest survivors locked in a town, waiting for another monster wave. After teaching that highlight, King Tasan is invited. Meet Tan, the only person to ever clear alone mode. She's probably the strongest one out there. When they meet, she suggests he finds a hobby. He waves it off that he will think about it when he is not busy, trying to survive. Right now he is more interested in why she called him. Tion gets straight to business. She heard he disciplined a hard mode player that day. That is odd, considering he is an easy mode player. She pulls up her status window showing her level over 250, solid health plus mana, and extraordinary attack and defense stats, among others. Basically, she is a walking fortress. And yet, somewhere in that overpowered stat sheet there is something that hints at fear. Our boy knows she is showing off, but whatever. He shows his stats with good health plus mana, and apparently he is in top condition. Tian takes one look and states the obvious: he is weak. He can tell she is itching for a fight. Now moving on to some explanation about the labyrinth and its 4 difficulty modes. Once a player clears it, their growth stops, which is why the power gap between difficulties is absurd. A hard mode player's stats are 10 times higher than the MC's, yet none of them could survive a single hit from him. The reason is his skill. Tian decides to put that claim to the test. With pinpoint accuracy, she strikes, but instead of hitting him, her attack obliterates the poor wall behind him. Our hero does not even blink and nullifies the attack like it's a light breeze. Tian has no choice but to admit that his skill set is insane. Over 200 abilities, all earned by fully exploring the labyrinth. She regrets not doing the same, but it's not too late in her eyes. Still, she gives credit words. Do and admit that if he had played alone mode, they might have actually won. Not that it matters, as his skill set may be the leader tier, but most of his abilities rely on his stats, which means he cannot even use half of them. The MC, of course, could not care less about past regrets. He cuts straight to the point and asks about her scouting mission. She gives him the update that another wave is about to start. Our boy knows that means complete and utter disaster. The first wave destroyed the capital. The second wiped out half the hard players. By the third, humanity was barely clinging to a single city. And now, the fourth wave is knocking at their door. He asks about the enemy numbers: 2's rank monsters, dozens of A rank, hundreds of B rank, and an A pop. He goes quiet. Even Tan can barely handle an S rank, and they are severely lacking players strong enough to deal with the A ranks. As for the Apostle, that thing is above in rank. In short, they are screwed, but Tian refuses to back down. She wants our hero to take care of these rank monsters. He instantly realizes that she is sending him on a suicide mission, but she is not wrong. If she fights the Apostle, only our boy is left to deal with the S ranks. He complains about how underpaid he is for this nonsense and turns to walk off to warn the others. But Tion stops him. In her eyes, it's better if no one else knows. As he is gone, she grips a stone in her hand and calls herself a coward. Outside, Jungin sighs as he is already accepting his fate. The other players are crying like it's their last day on the planet, which, to be fair, it probably is. Junggun at least is taking it well. He and our boy share a moment of mutual understanding that this is going to be a disaster. But they both cannot help but feel sorry for Changshan. But let's be honest, the MC got the worst deal here, and Junggun understands it as well. If the others had even half his strength, maybe they would not be standing at the gates of doom right now. And speaking of thunder rumbles and the gate opens. From within, monsters step out. Junggun gives our hero a farewell and hopes to see him in the afterlife. But our boy has no time for sentimental nonsense. He leaps into the sky and scans the battlefield below. Through his system window, he spots these rank monsters. As he lands, he assesses his state of mind to ensure that he won't lose his sanity. After all, within him dwells an unconquerable force, and he is about to unleash it. The MC eyes the rank monsters before him. His scout ability confirms the worst. The mushroom-shaped one is a defensive type with an absurdly high health pool. The thing buries itself in the ground and stares at our boy as if daring him to try. Our hero knows that he could spend his entire life whittling that thing down, but its power is too much to make it happen. So, he shifts his focus and checks out the other one, which is a tentacle monster, a long-range attacker with solid health but still manageable. At least in theory. He leaps forward and cuts through its tentacle. only to find out his attacks are not as effective. So he moves to plan B and goes straight for the head. He lunges for the monster only to get blasted with an energy attack. He nullifies it, but this thing has 0 cooldown. He knows really well that there is no dodging forever, so his only shot is to predict its attacks, but the longer he takes to figure them out, the worse his odds get. He accelerates, blasts through the tentacles, and strikes the monster directly. His nullification keeps him safe. But the monster is not taking this well, and it flails in fury. Before he can press the attack, he notices that the mushroom monster is. Unfortunately for them, our boy is not an idiot. He slams into the defense monster and activates a forced duel. A glowing circle forms around the defense monster, and for the next minute, only it can attack our hero. The long-range monster tries to interfere, but rules are rules. If Tian were here, our hero could predict that she would probably ignore the defense type entirely and go straight for the attacker. That is a luxury one gets when they have extraordinary stats and legendary gear. But for the MC, he knows that a single hit from either of these things could send him to the afterlife with express delivery, so he does what he has to. He uses his designated skill reset, something he won't be able to use again for a whole month, multiply his attack power, and throws everything he has at the defense monster. But it's still barely doing anything. He then copies his attack to double the impact. A massive explosion erupts, and finally, the mushroom monster keels over. But there is no time to celebrate as the tentacle monster immediately retaliates and lands a brutal hit. Our boy barely holds on and activates his last line of defense, which is a technolification. The monster tries to crush him with its tentacles, but our hero knows that now he just has to dodge and attack, which is simple enough except for one tiny problem. His man of bar is basically a desert at this point, and now he has to finish this fight by swinging and hoping for the best. The battle drags, with each strike shaving off chunks of the monster's health. The MC keeps hammering away, then something clicks. His mind and body sync in perfect harmony, and suddenly, he has some kind of miracle-like power. A soul skill etches itself into his very being and boosts his soul attacks. But the system mentions that since he is no longer inside the labyrinth, the skill gets sealed away, not that he has time to throw a tantrum over it. Right now, all he wants is for the system to shut up and let him finish his job. The monster groans in pain, but our boy does not bother with sympathy. With one final stab, he puts the thing out of its misery. The system pops up and rambles about how the leader from every realm are in awe of his feat. That is great and all. But where was there the supreme intervention when he was almost getting turned into monster food? His stats are low, but he forces himself forward. The city is a complete disaster, as bodies, debris, and destruction are everywhere, and among the corpses he spots the so-called hard mode players who spent all their time bragging, and he as the easy mode player is still standing. Then he sees Jungun, who is dead, and not just him, but Tian, the strongest human. The only one to clear alone mode is gone too. Before he can even process it, something disgusting moves toward Tion's body. An apostle, it sneers and threatens to kill our hero, but the MC is way too tired for this nonsense. He glares at the creature and his exhaustion barely masks his disgust. Then, with all the defiance he has left, he attacks. The apostle closes in on the MC, radiates an overwhelming energy that pierces through his body and sends him flying. As our boy crashes to the ground, he knows this is the end. The system confirms it and updates that his health is at 0. But instead of just letting him die like a normal person, the system decides to keep him alive for another minute. Our poor hero cannot, and is just waiting for the clock to run out. He starts to regret that he should have picked normal mode instead of taking the easy route. Thunder rumbles in the distance and the monster is getting closer. He scrapes his fingers across the ground and curses the other players, those geniuses who picked normal and hard modes but still did not bother getting stronger. But it's not like yelling at them is going to magically undo his choices. He gives up and accepts his fate, but then something catches his eye. There is a stone in Tian's hand glowing faintly. He drags his broken body toward it and ignores the apostle's growing fury. As a last resort, he activates his final skill to stop everything within 100 meters for 2 minutes. With everything still, he reaches the stone, which is called the Ouroboros gastrolith, the supreme artifact that can reverse time once for a single person. He grips it tightly and watches as the monster finally breaks through the skylight and engulfs him, and in the next moment, he finds himself standing in front of him as a child, getting scolded for simply existing. His parents had always treated him like a punching bag. That belief led him to pick easy mode, but this time he knows better. He wakes up in his rundown apartment. First things first, he grabs his phone and checks the date, which is the last day of the year. He realizes that he really has gone back in time. He then lets the realization sink in. The world is about to go up in flames the moment the new year begins. But for now he has got a pizza to enjoy. After years of surviving on bland potatoes and whatever monster meat he could stomach, this greasy, cheesy masterpiece feels like a 5-star meal. Once he is done, his thoughts drift to the artifact Tian had, and her reason for not using it. The Tian he knew would have been halfway across the planet the moment things went south. He steps onto the balcony, and his phone screen glows in the dark, as just a few minutes remain until midnight. The streets below are bustling with people excitedly counting down, sending messages and exchanging gifts, all while unaware of the horror about to descend. Then faint cracks of light streak across the sky. People take it that it's some next-level fireworks display. But our hero knows better. As soon as the clock The sky groans open and a monstrous figure emerges. Screams erupt as panic spreads like wildfire. Back then our boy had freaked out too, but now his trained eyes scan the creature that it's only B rank. A sudden system window pops up in front of him, and the rest of the unfortunate souls below. The message is clear that invaders have arrived and the world is ending, but it assures them that help is on the way. But the help comes in the form of modes, which have cleared Grant power. While chaos erupts around him, the MC watches the options appear. Unlike others, no need for hesitation for him, as he already knows what to do. In the labyrinth, survival depends entirely on the chosen mode. The easiest one is practically a vacation because food is everywhere. Cozy resting spots are at every turn, and even the weakest players can crawl their way to victory if they put in enough effort. Then there is normal mode. Things start getting rough here as food is not just lying around, and there are not many decent places to rest. But as long as players don't let misery eat them alive, they can still make it through. Hard mode though, that's where the real fun begins. Food is a myth. And finally, there is alone mode, the ultimate nightmare with no allies, no familiar faces. Just an endless parade of monsters, enemies, and NPCs who might as well be villains. The system itself warns players not to choose it unless they have a death wish, but our hero picks it without hesitation. The teleportation ends, and as he looks around, he feels that odd mix of nostalgia and irritation. He indeed is back. The community board, which is a rare connection between players across different modes, has a post from some guy named King John Hyuk. Our boy has no idea who he is, but the guy seems to be handling things well. It reminds him of how the first players to clear the labyrinth once shared useful tips. He wishes the others luck and decides to check back later. For now, there is something else he needs to confirm. He thinks back to a conversation with Tyon about the NPCs. In easy mode, they were basically robots who repeated the same lines and actions. But Tyon insisted that in alone mode, they acted like real people, with actual thoughts and If that is true, then the MC knows that something is seriously off. Arriving at the labyrinth entrance, he spots a guy dozing off at the gate. Back in easy mode, there was an old man who was nothing more than a boring standard NPC. But now the moment the guy opens his eyes, our boy can tell that he is strong, even stronger than Ton. The guy introduces himself as the Broken Man, the guardian of the labyrinth. His title comes from once trying to beat this place and failing miserably. Now he has the job of standing around and watching others suffer. He starts rambling about the great opportunity they have to save their world. But our hero is not buying the sales pitch. He knows better that this is not some grand mission, but it is just a well-disguised horror show. The Broken Man seems confused by the MC's lack of reaction. Apparently, people from peaceful worlds are supposed to freak out in situations like this. Since our boy is not panicking, the guy briefly considers smacking him around for fun but decides against it. Instead, he moves on to the important stuff. The labyrinth has 100 floors. With a difficulty spike every 10, our hero has to figure out the food by himself, and for the safe zones the guy wishes the MC good luck with that. That is all the help our hero is getting, because the gatekeeper is too lazy to explain more. Our boy recalls Tan mentioning how this guy nearly killed her before she even stepped inside, so he wisely keeps his mouth shut. The Broken Man then summons a weapon and swings it right next to our hero's face as he tries to test him, but the MC does not even blink. That seems to amuse the guy, who smirks and hands over some gear, a barely holding together leather armor, a rusty sword on the verge of breaking, and an old wristband that might, if the stars align, stop a beast's fan. The generosity is overwhelming with that. The gatekeeper waves our boy off with the note that he has to figure out skills on his own. As our hero walks into the labyrinth, the guy watches him go and feels something different about him. He has seen plenty of so-called prodigies before, all of whom have failed. But he can notice that the MC is not just skilled, but he has something far more valuable, sheer stubborn will to survive. As our boy moves forward, a system window pops up to give him a backstory about the lab room. Some all-powerful sorcerer created this, and apparently anyone who conquers it can make a wish. Of course, getting to that point is the tricky part. The labyrinth is home to horrors beyond imagination, filled with creatures that exist purely to destroy the players. And yet, as our hero reaches the first floor, which is a relatively tame area filled with weak monsters, he just grins. Finally, the real game is about to begin. Our boy's mission is to beat the first floor boss and get a random stat boost potion. There is also a hidden reward, but no one knows what it is. As he walks, he remembers talking to Tyon about the shopkeeper in easy mode. In that mode, the merchant was just a normal seller with potions, but in alone mode, things were quite the opposite. Tyon showed him an ash bracelet, an ultimate item that cuts incoming damage in half. She got it from the shop and there were plenty of other game-breaking items. But she did not have enough gold to buy them all. If our hero could purchase everything, he would likely end up making her look like a newbie. Lost in thought, the MC reaches a door. He pushes it open and is greeted with an unexpected NPC, the Lost King. Our boy greets him, and the king notes that our hero, after introducing himself, our boy glances around the shop and expects to see something useful. But there is none. It's because the Lost King has no intention of displaying his treasures. If he does, the entire first floor would be overflowing with them. Our hero does not understand the point of him even being there, if he does not want to sell anything. The king explodes in rage and rants about how some guys had stolen his kingdom and left him stuck in this situation. Not exactly the answer our boy was looking for. At least now he knows the guy has issues. Still, despite his bitterness, the king is not completely unreasonable. He points to a path leading downstairs, and if our hero can go in and return alive, the king will reconsider. The MC double-checks if this is truly the only condition. The Lost King finds his attitude odd but confirms it. No full labyrinth clearing is required, just a little survival exercise. With that reassurance, our boy moves forward. While in the eyes of the Lost King, our hero is not coming back anyway. The MC walks. The passage ahead looks just like the one in easy mode, which means it is probably anything but safe, and a big rat appears and charges straight at him. Our boy can see that the 5th floor boss from easy mode is just a regular minion here. The rat lunges at his feet. Our hero remembers very well that its defense is weak, but its speed makes it a nightmare to fight. Back in easy mode, a group of players work together to exhaust it before attacking. But now the MC is solo, his stats are trash, and honestly the whole situation is just unfair. Even Tyon took one look and ran out of there. Clearly no lone player who cleared the 1st floor actually dealt with this monstrosity. But our boy has figured out the labyrinth's reward system, which wants the players to do what others cannot. Achieve something absurdly difficult, and the system will give a reward. So our hero swings his sword, but the rat is too fast and dodges effortlessly. Then it lunges and sinks its teeth into the MC's arm. Our boy flings it away with his sword, and decides that if he cannot match its speed, he will have to outthink it. He knows that the rat, like any living creature, has patterns. Its leg muscles contract, and its chest swells, which are the textbook signs of an attack. He anticipates its movement. The system updates that he has overwhelmed the rat and lowered its ability to discern threats, which means that the rat's tiny brain is now even more useless. Our boy predicts that since it cannot jump high, it will likely go for his forearm next. Just as expected, the rat lunges at his arm. Our hero smirks and drives his sword through its body, ending the fight in one decisive blow. With the battle over, he picks up the rat's meat and makes his way back to the Lost King, ready to see what ridiculousness awaits him next. Kang Junhook is fuming and vents his frustration about the shopkeeper on the community board. Tien is equally annoyed. On the other side, as the MC has returned alive, the Lost King chokes on his disbelief, but what really leaves him speechless is the prize our hero places on the desk. Fresh big rat meat, and not just any meat but high-quality, technically edible meat. As a bonus, he also has big rat hide, thick and warm. The Lost King needs a moment to process. Most people, when faced with a big rat, run for their lives. Yet here is our boy, standing victorious with trophies in hand. After inspecting the goods in can, the MC wastes no time. He demands a massive tower shield as it will make dealing with big rats easier. The Lost King actually likes the idea. He reveals a hidden golden door in the wall and pulls out a heavy tower shield. Our hero just cannot believe is getting an item of this quality before floor 7 and easy mode is unheard of. But the problem is he has only half of the price. So he decides to go hunt more big rats, come back and buy the shield. But before he can leave, the Lost King tosses the shield to him for free. Our boy blinks as that is unexpected and suspicious. Before he can question it, the man starts chucking more items his way, like potions, jewelry, a dagger, and other gear. The MC gets utterly confused as this is the exact opposite of what Tyon told him about the shopkeeper. The Lost King makes it clear that he is just investing in him. Our hero is not sure what that means, but he is not about to argue with free loot. He can see there are many potions, some restore half, while others temporarily boost attack or speed. They are essential for labyrinth survival, but he decides not to buy them just yet, and potions are rare and much more useful on higher floors. He has seen enough to know when something feels like a trap. Instead, he focuses on something more practical, which is a bow and arrows. Long-range weapons could save him a lot of trouble, so he buys the bow and some arrows after selling the big rat hide, and the Lost King seems satisfied. Our boy still cannot figure this guy out, but one thing is clear, he is not normal. Before he leaves, the Lost King gives him another tip. There is a place called the Spring of Life on the guest floor, where he can recover his power as much as he wants, and even mark it on the MC's map. As our hero leaves, he cannot help but think about the shopkeeper's sudden shift in attitude. Maybe it is a difference in approach. Tien ran away while he came back victorious. Just then another big rat shows up. He takes it down with ease, but his mind is still racing with unanswered questions. The biggest one is his soul attack skill. When he captured his first big rat, he gained skills far beyond the basics. That is, the abilities normally. According to the system, his soul has glimpsed around beyond, and with every victory, he will absorb his opponent's power. Which sounds cool if a little ominous. This is the same skill he received just before dying in his previous life. Except back then it was sealed because he exited the labyrinth. Now it is fully active, and somehow even after time rewound it remains with him. The mysteries keep piling up, but there is no time to dwell on them. He has a goal, which is to become the strongest player ever. Following the map, he heads toward the Spring of Life. The passage stretches on endlessly, making him wonder if he has somehow been tricked. Just as he is considering how much longer he has to walk, he hears rustling around him. He turns and finds himself surrounded by glowing eyes in the dark. Not one big rat, not two, but a whole swarm. Our hero stands in the dimly lit labyrinth, surrounded by a bunch of big rats. Even with their tiny brains, they seem to understand that they have got the upper hand just by sheer numbers. But despite all their aggression, he on the other hand stays perfectly calm. He knows better than to get cocky, as too many players have met embarrassing ends because of tiny miscalculations. 2 more attack from behind, but thanks to his increased stats, our hero easily outpaces them and knocks them away. As he kills them, he levels up. Last rat loses its nerve. Our boy lures it into attack, and as it rushes forward, he slams it down with his shield, a fitting punishment for overestimating itself. With the battle over, the MC enters the labyrinth's resting area, a safe zone where enemies cannot follow. The tranquil atmosphere there could lull players into a false sense of security. But our hero is not stupid. A spring of life shimmers in the center, and because he gets here first, the system gives him an intelligence and mana boost. He drinks from the spring and feels instantly refreshed, though his mental exhaustion remains, and for that, he knows he needs rest. The next morning arrives and he checks the community board. The alone mode players are bickering over whether to enter the labyrinth or keep waiting for the supreme. Meanwhile, Kang Dongjun from normal mode is hunting for monster info and a team to help him clear the first floor. Alone players spam the board the most, since this is the closest they will ever get to social interaction. The MC smirks when he sees a post from Tan, the so-called number 1 player, asking for help. But then again, he remembers her status window from his past life. The one that mentioned her fear, maybe despite all her strength, she never really stopped being a coward. He leaves a post himself, a generous explanation regarding the first floor tutorial to the confused masses. As expected, the alone mode players are in shock with some random, nameless benefactor handing out survival tips. Our hero doubts they will trust him immediately. Even if they do, surviving the labyrinth is not as simple as following a guide. In his past life, out of 1,000 players, only Tyan managed to crawl out alive. He shifts his focus and pulls out a chunk of rat meat. The system labels it as edible, and he takes a bite and immediately regrets his life choices. A wave of nausea hits him as he gets food poisoning, as a result of which, his stats will decrease 4, and he will ultimately die unless he uses a recovery potion or chugs power potions. Most players learn their lesson after one unfortunate meal. Our boy, however, is not like them. He drinks from the spring and shakes off the poisoning instantly, then takes another bite. Fortunately, nothing happens this time. Food is scarce in the labyrinth, and emergency rations are about as uncommon, so eating monsters is inevitable. He tests his luck again but gets food poisoning again, followed by another instant cure by drinking the spring's water. Eventually, the system gives in and awards him disease resistance, which permanently makes him immune to food-related illnesses. He is now satisfied and moves on to his next experiment. He steps into the spring, dunks his face underwater and holds his breath. Pain flares in his lungs, but he stubbornly endures. When he finally surfaces gasping for air, the system rewards him with 2 new skills. Apnoea lets him hold his breath twice as long, and Deathline grants him an instinctual sense of impending doom. But strangely, Deathline's proficiency is already above 50%. All his other skills started at level 1, so he is can, especially since it's the same level he had before reversing time. He has no idea whether it's some mystical connection between time and mind-based abilities, and frankly, he does not have the time to care. He summons his sword and moves forward. There are more skills to acquire, and he has no intention of stopping now. John Yoke is afraid to follow the tutorial as posted by our boy on the community board. But our hero does not care as it's his loss. But he is not alone as T-John shares the same feelings. Though they cannot help since the MC is the only one ahead of everyone. Our boy on the other hand is busy training his newly acquired apnea skill. The skills have combos, and executing specific moves in the right situations can unlock even stronger abilities. He practices holding his breath while attacking and manages to double his apnea state duration, though only if he stays still. After relentless practice, he finally stops to catch his breath, and the system rewards him with a special apnea attack. With over 10 skills in his arsenal, he now considers himself a skilled player. He feels satisfied and checks out his sword. Just like he once predicted the movements of big rats to catch them, he realizes that humans also have predictable rhythms, and with an apnea attack, he can mess with those rhythms at will and make it a handy trick for his time in the labyrinth. He takes a quick glance at his status window and smirks as his dexterity has already surpassed Tion's when she cleared the first floor. He then decides it's time to craft his main skill and leaves the resting place. These main skills are a big deal, as each one is either worth more than 10 basic skills or grants the leader tier abilities, like adding or multiplying attack power, revealing hidden elements, erasing damage, or even stopping time. But of course, the system is not about to hand them out like free samples. Take Complete Scout for example, which only unlocks if one evolved the Insight skill multiple times. Our boy wonders if there is a way to snag a main skill on this floor, preferably without having to sell his soul. But before that, he has to deal with another big rat. He swings his shield but the rat bites his foot. The creature must be feeling pretty high, thinking our hero is helpless, when in reality, the MC is letting himself get hit. He holds out just long enough to trigger the system's pity mechanic. The system rewards him with an increase in his deathline and cold-heartedness proficiency. The rat attacks again, and this time, he blocks it properly and unlocks a new defensive ability. But this skill only ignores attacks below a certain amount of damage, so it's not the skill that he wants. What he really wants is the hold-on skill, which has an ability that nullifies a fatal attack and grants temporary invincibility. Back in his previous life, he was the only one who managed to get it, and Yungan and Tiong had been very impressed. As for how to do it, well, the labyrinth had its own rulebook, according to which the skills could either be borrowed from someone else, earned by doing something no one else has dared to, or just copied if one is clever enough. The MC recalls how he learned apnea by holding his breath and apnea attack by spamming sword swings in that state. Applying the same logic, he lets the rat keep attacking him while he repeatedly blocks fatal attacks. After what feels like an eternity of near-death experiences, the system finally decides he has suffered enough and rewards him with the hold-on skill. Our boy gets relieved and satisfied. He had lost his mind when he explained his training methods before, but this was the labyrinth. Either risk your life to gain something or stay weak and get eaten. He returns to the resting room, gulps down some spring water, and checks his system notifications. Unsurprisingly, there are more skills. At this point, he has collected around 200 of them. Just as he is scrolling through, someone suddenly appears. The MC immediately tenses. The man standing before him is not another player but an NPC. And if the rumors are true, NPCs in alone mode are straight up insane. He vaguely remembers Tyon mentioning something about an old knight, probably a special Templar. Before he can recall anything useful, the man suddenly rushes at him and throws a punch. The system updates that the old knight, Ainsar, has activated a non-fatal attack on our hero, and the MC just stands there in shock at the sudden turn of events. The MC's Deathline skill kicks in and warns him that he is about to meet an end. As Ainsar punch comes speeding toward him, he desperately holds up his shield but barely keeps it from breaking apart. He takes a deep breath, fights to stay on his feet. But suddenly out of nowhere, he feels an unexpected surge of mountain power. His strength increases just in time for the impending punch. However, as he lets go of the shield to dodge the attack, he gets a special skill deflect. Still, with the gap in their strength, dodging this punch is a daydream. When it lands, it sends him crashing into the wall, which breaks. But to Ainsar's surprise, the MC does not seem as badly hurt as he wanted. Thankfully, our boy nullified the damage in time. But still he coughs as he feels the blow and notices that the alone mode is nothing but a monster fest. Ainsar though is a bit shocked or rather impressed. In a blink, our boy did not just block his attack with the shield, but he actually made it worse for Ainsar by letting go of it just in time. Looks like our hero was not the easy target he thought he was, but Einstein makes it clear that he was not out to kill the MC anyway. He was just trying to keep things friendly with a non-fatal hit. Even if he had gone all in though, in his eyes our boy probably would have shrugged it off with his defensive skills. So Ainsar helps him up, our boy who. He knew Einjar was a self-aware NPC, but seeing him actually know about specific skills is a surprise. Even Tyon never figured that out. They introduced themselves, but our hero is still a bit skeptical. He remembers Tyon's running with Einzer, which was the complete opposite of this. He attacked her out of nowhere, and she just stared at him like a deer in headlights. Einthar did not even give her a second thought, called her a coward and left her behind. She never saw him again, so the MC obviously was not exactly expecting a friendly moment here. He is still wondering why Einsar attacked him in the first place, and whether he has some strange hobby of picking on the weak. Einshar, however, clears it up and explains that as a special Templar he would never oppress the weak. His attack was just a test to see if our boy was worthy of recognition. Our hero gets it now that he has passed the test. No enemies here, just an oddly aggressive NPC who likes to make dramatic first impressions. He then asks about the leader Ainsar worships. He has heard about the leader and the labyrinth, the ones who test players and hand out rewards, though most players could not care less. Our boy, thanks to Tyon's rants, actually knows a thing or two about them. Einshar proudly talks about Levanov, the leader of love, the one who connects people to their loved ones. In his eyes, no one is as wonderful as her. But after his world was destroyed, he has been searching for her with no clue where she has gone. Our hero, though, already knows where she is, and it might not be a happy ending. In the previous life, she was found by none other than Tyon, but she had been torn apart. He knows it must have been a horrific sight, and he hesitates whether to tell Einstein's or the truth. But before he can make up his mind, Ainsar is curious whether the MC is in a hurry to dive deeper into the labyrinth. But our boy is not in a rush, as his goal is not the labyrinth. He is here to learn, conquer, and get stronger while collecting all the goodies along the way. Ainsar, who is still feeling guilty for attacking our hero, offers to teach him Levine enough abilities as an apology. The MC agrees, of course, because no one will waste a golden opportunity like this. But just to make sure, he asks what the catch is. To his surprise, Ainsar is just doing this out of repentance. But Inazar waves it off. In his eyes, if our hero was not worthy, he would have already spat in his face and left. Ainsar then decides to show him the skill and orders the MC to hit him with his shield. Inside the labyrinth, weapons are not just tools, but they are keys to unlocking power. A sword swing, a shield's raise, or a spear's thrust seem basic at first, but the more a fighter hones them, the sharper these skills become. On their own, they are just basic attacks, but when combined, they create something far more dangerous. That is the Ilac weapon technique, a deadly mix of mastered skills that turns into an unstoppable force. Ainshar, who is all emotional, cannot wait to teach this game-changing technique to our hero. But the MC is not impressed. He finds it all pretty meaningless. Which, to be honest, is understandable. Combining basic weapon skills does not seem to do much except cause a little glitch in the system. When Einstein asks him about it, he answers that his extra attack power adds just 1 point, and with his basic attack, that only adds up to 4. Einshar then asks our boy to attack him. Our hero obliges by slamming his shield onto Einsar's head. Of course, Einshar did not expect him to hit him that hard. Now in pain, Ansar asks the MC to try a punch instead. Not wanting to hit him in the head again, our boy goes for the chest next. Surprisingly, the damage is much less. And now our hero gets it that different weapons mean different damage. Einsa explains that adventurers usually stick to one weapon to avoid messing up the system. He gives an example of a gauntlet with 50 attack power and a sword with only 20, but an attack with a sword only delivers 20 damage. It's not rocket science. If it worked any other way, adventurers would be walking around with enough weapons to fill a small army. The MC agrees, but Insar has a different opinion. He thinks combat is about putting the life on the line, and the entire body should be part of that fight, not just the shiny sword or shield. So after years of research, Insar came up with the Alak weapon technique, which no matter what weapon is used, fuses the attack power of both the weapon and the gear, and turns the user into a walking, talking powerhouse. Our boy finally sees the light and realizes how useful this could be, especially for all those discarded pieces of gear that no one cared about. In the past, they were basically junk, but as he clears more labyrinths and starts picking up high-grade equipment, this technique will be of equal worth to that of a main skill. Einzer then transfers the skill to our hero. The MC feels the information flow into him, like downloading the latest update to his brain. But since he is still a rookie, he might experience some loss of power until he gets the hang of it. Einzer also gives him a faded ring, which our boy would have tossed aside without a second thought before, but now, it's a treasure. Next, Insar suggests they spar so our hero can test out his new skill. The MC agrees and summons his trusty tower shield. In the labyrinth, every move matters. Even the most pointless-looking rooms have something hidden, and carefully searching them could lead to rising insight skills. For our boy, blocking attacks with his shield is not just a defensive move, but it is an opportunity to get better at the skill's proficiency. Each time he blocks, his skill increases. Fighting strong opponents might actually be worth it after all. 2 days later, exhausted but proud, he has gained a new skill, continued combat. He was able to fight with Ensrank monster for days in his previous life, thanks to this ridiculous ability. On top of that, this skill can only be learned by fighting other players, so he had not thought about acquiring it solo. Einsar, on the other hand, is impressed and praises our hero's instincts and skills, and he is happy with the progress, but he adds one more thing. The MC cannot teach the Alak technique to just anyone. If someone is unworthy and he goes ahead and teaches them, Einsar will find him and kill him. Before they part ways, Einsar asks our boy to let him know if he finds any information about Levine enough. Our hero is unsure how to break the news if Einter somehow stumbles upon the leader. There is a good chance that she would be more of a memory than a living being by now, and if by some miracle she is still alive, well, he would not be surprised if someone has already ended her. He is stuck in this awkward spot and is unsure whether to drop the truth bomb or keep his mouth shut. But then finally he let it slip that he knows that the leader is where. And yet here is our boy who is just barely past the starting line and is claiming he knows exactly where she is. Our hero, however, has already expected this reaction and has a plan to explain. He needs Einsar to trust him. In his world, there are items that provide information about the labyrinth, which to Einder sounds like complete nonsense. A labyrinth with no map suddenly has one for special beings. It all sounds ridiculous to him. But the MC clarifies that while general maps don't exist, there are ones for unique entities like a magical flute that summons the leader. His family has studied such items, which is how he knew the leader's locations before even setting foot inside. Thinking back to a conversation with Taeyeon, he remembers her showing off some items she got from the 89th floor. At the time, he dismissed it as completely useless. But now he uses that information to reveal the location of Levanov, which is on the 78th floor, hidden in the 24th secret room of the library. Einjar has never checked that spot and overcome with emotion. He grabs the MC in an overacting display of gratitude. He promises to prepare before heading out, as he is determined to confirm whether the leader is actually there, or if our boy is just pulling his leg. But before that, he wants to repay our hero, so he hands him a copper ring. The MC puts it on and watches as Izar leave, all while yelling about the leader as he disappears. The MC wonders if Einjar will actually find her, and if he does, whether she will even be alive. Either way, one thing's for sure, that is he won't be seeing Ainsar again anytime soon. With that, our boy gets moving. Now that his dexterity has increased, catching the big rats has become easy. He realizes there is no point in sticking around since he has outgrown this floor. If he wants to get stronger, he has to move up. But before heading to the second floor, there is something he needs to take care of first. The labyrinth hides multiple secret rooms, with each floor containing at least one. These rooms offer valuable rewards like magic staffs, levitation rings, permanent stat boosting potions, and other things. Easy mode competition. It was more about luck than skill, and frankly, he had better things to do than gamble on secret doors. But now every single one is his for the taking. He just needs to confirm if their layouts remain the same. Though labyrinths change depending on the mode, their basic structure stays consistent. That means the secret room should still be where they always were. With this in mind, he enters one. The space is surprisingly small, with nothing but a single door and plain walls. Most players ignore this place and assume it serves no purpose. Our hero starts inspecting the walls. Every brick looks identical, so he randomly taps them. He then removes them one by one and watches for changes. Compared to his past struggles, like barely surviving in a room for a week with nothing. This is exciting. His insight proficiency increases as he works. Finally, he uncovers the hidden room and earns the title of adventure and a nice boost to his intelligence. Inside he spots a treasure box, but he knows better than to rush in like some clueless rookie. The labyrinth does not give out freebies. He scans the surroundings and picks up a big rat and tosses it into the room. Now prepared, he moves forward. Another arrow comes for him, but this time he snatches it midair. For any other first-floor player, this would be a death sentence. But for him, it's just free arrows and another day in the labyrinth. Our boy snatches the arrows midair, but it's getting harder. The only downside is that these arrows are coated in poison and paralysis agents. After gathering enough of them, he decides it's time to move forward. He leaps ahead. He could just run while blocking with his tower shield like a sane person. But this is a labyrinth, and here perfection is not optional. So he goes full martial artist, smashes arrows mid-flight with his kicks, and crushes them in his grip while hopping across stone tiles. Then comes brick number 9. 9 arrows shoot toward him from all directions. He activates apnea and sharpens his vision. Dodging them all is unlikely, so he enhances his senses further and unlocks a new skill that is sense augmentation. He breaks some arrows, deflects the rest, and still ends up with a few new cuts. Then the final trap triggers. By the usual pattern, there should be 10 arrows, but no, because life is unfair. He barely has time to register how unfair this is before realizing there is no way to block them all. But with so many coming at once, he makes a guess that some of their paths overlap. He weaves through the storm of projectiles, but some still find their mark. The arrows stab into him and blood spills from the wound. Pain shoots through him, the kind that makes one reconsider his life choices. But in that moment of agony, he unlocks a new skill called pain reduction. The sharp, unbearable pain now feels like slightly less unbearable pain. If he had not been through worse, he is pretty sure he would have blacked out. He could purposely take more hits to unlock even more skills. But he decides not to turn this into a self-torture session. He unlocks the treasure chest. Inside lies a flame staff. The beginner wizard's go-to weapon, capable of casting fireballs. Among early magic items, this one actually holds some real value. He knows that Tian barely cleared any secret rooms, so she would not know the difference between a good item and a slightly fancier rock. If this is the standard reward in alone mode, at least there is some justice in the world. He exits the secret room and faces a swarm of big rats. With just one arm, he cuts through them. The difference in stats is almost embarrassing. The system rewards him with another skill called Unfaltering Resolve. At the resting area, he drinks from the spring and instantly refreshes himself like he just took the best nap of his life. With a clear head, he reviews his new abilities. Pain reduction and sense augmentation are good, but they need time to get better. Unfaltering Resolve is even better since it lets him ignore injuries temporarily. Worth the trouble, but the flame staff is the real prize. Now it's time for the second floor. The labyrinth structure is simple. A boss guards the staircase to the next level. Beat it and move forward. Our hero hopes the battle will be as easy as the layout suggests. But let's be real, this is alone mode. And here, nothing is ever that simple. He pushes open the gate. A massive figure looms in the darkness. The giant rat in the floor's boss. In easy mode, this thing was a 10th floor nightmare. The MC remembers how many players were shredded by its claws. But at this point, he is not even surprised. The giant rat is not just some random monster, but it's a knight. That was why she found a way to cheat the system and took advantage of the labyrinth rules that bosses cannot leave their rooms. She filled the chamber with gasoline and set it ablaze. A perfectly reasonable approach, really, considering she was the only survivor among those who attempted the first floor. Her method was probably the closest thing to a winning strategy, but our hero knows that is not the kind of battle the labyrinth wants. It wants pain, struggle, and an exhausting display of skill, and he is here to grow stronger. He summons his staff and unleashes the fireball spell at the giant rat. The flames catch, burn the creature, and inflict minor damage over time. But he needs more, so he fires poison arrows, yet the beast shows no reaction. That does not deter our boy though, as he has planned for this exact nonsense. He switches the tactics and fires paralysis arrows. This time the rat freezes in place and gets immovable until either struck or 10 seconds pass. The MC seizes the opportunity and keeps it pinned down with repeated paralysis shots, and layers the status effects like an absolute menace. He is not just overpower, but he is dismantling it piece by piece. Once incapacitated, the rat becomes even more vulnerable and takes increased damage. But our hero knows this strategy has a limit. When the rat's health drops below 20%, it enters berserker mode. Our boy remembers this nightmare from his past life, and he knows really well that the paralysis arrows won't work on it anymore. So now it is a direct fight. He raises his tower shield and braces for impact. Even with the defense, he takes damage. But he has already prepared his next move. His strength is not high, but dexterity is his ticket. He uses it to his advantage and strikes at the rat's legs with his shield to force it off balance while enduring its relentless counterattacks. His stamina is running low, and he knows he cannot keep this up much longer. He summons his sword, activates apnea attack, and slices into the rat with rapid, precise strikes. Of course, the beast retaliates, because it would not be a fight without the MC getting injured. But our hero knows that he cannot afford to take more hits. So he sends the rat's own attacks back at it while continuing his relentless assault. Blow after blow he presses on until finally the giant wreck. With the battle over, he checks his rewards. His dexterity and mana have increased, and he levels up, and his wounds get healed as well. As a reward, he receives a random stat boost potion and surprise bonus. A designated stat boost potion, he drinks both and feels his strength rise. He then remembers his new skill counter, and realizes he can now reflect enemy attacks with even greater force. Before moving on, he opens the community board to check on the tutorial he has posted about the first floor. He has not expected much, but curiosity gets the better of him. On the community board, players talk with excitement over the spring of life and share tips and advice. It's almost heartwarming until our boy remembers his past life, where the board was nothing but a graveyard of hopeless messages. And eventually even that died down, well, all except one. Tian, she was the lone voice in that wasteland of silence. And now, just like before, her name pops up again. This time she is asking about him. The boy, meanwhile, is busy tightening the fighter gloves he has bought from the Lost King and gets ready to head down. He wants the hidden teeth too, but our hero has no plan to hand them over. The king seems to get the hint and figures out that he is searching for someone. And for once, he is actually right. The MC is looking for Hafren, the labyrinth's blacksmith. According to Tian, she never would have made it to the lower floors without his help. That alone makes it worth tracking him down. After leaving the shop, he is now near the labyrinth's entrance, a relatively safe zone filled with creatures that can barely put up a fight. But soon he reaches the second floor, where the real game begins. Clearing this floor will reward him with a beginner Manibus potion. There is also a secret reward, which is of course a mystery. He is excited to grab that potion, but before he can proceed, the system bombards him with unread notifications. Annoyed but curious, he opens the community board. Juniuk, Taejin, and Suhyun spam him with messages like desperate fans. Before he can decide who to reply to first, a notification pops up that Junyak wants to converse with him privately. Our hero accepts, only to find out Junyak just wanted to meet him. When he first entered the labyrinth, he starved alone and was one step away from losing his mind. In desperation, he even begged the broken man for food, and that was how bad it got. And then, just when he thought he would die pathetically, the MC posted the first floor tutorial. Taeyeon is the first to succeed, and seeing her of all people make it out alive gave others hope. From their conversation, our boy learns that only Juniak and Tian have managed to hunt the big rats so far. He has met Tian before but not Junyak. Based on his memories from the past life, Junyak probably went out in some reckless blaze of stupidity. But now, thanks to his post, he has survived and reached Tian's level. That makes him an irregular, a survivor who by all logic should not exist. Since Juniak and others are actually managing to stay alive, our boy decides to give him another lifeline. He warns him about Einzar and drops some tips on how to handle him. If they play it right, Einzar will reward them with something useful. He also wants Jiniak to pass the advice to Taeyeon Jiniak, who is confused. It asks why the MC. Our hero hits him on the forehead and reminds him that they are all from the same planet, which is on the express lane to destruction. He is not helping out of kindness, but he is just making sure they don't die like a bunch of clueless idiots. He then switches topics and asks about the state of the community board. Juniak informs him that some players have started picking fights. Our boy can see that the rise of ignorance has begun. With that, they wrap up their talk and head back. Everything until now has been just the tutorial. But now, on the second floor, the real labyrinth begins. The MC kicks the door open like he owns the place. Inside, goblins armed with bows, shields, and swords are waiting. He raises his own bow and is ready to show them why they should fear humans. Goblins are hardly a threat on their own. But when they group up, their collective idiocy somehow turns them into a problem. Our hero fires an arrow, strikes the goblin with a bow and leaves it paralyzed. Meanwhile, the other goblins armed with a sword and shield decide it is their moment to shine. But our boy smashes it with his shield, then summons his sword and runs it through. Before he can catch it, two more goblins jump at him, with one wielding a large sword. The MCI is the sword, his staff, and blasts the entire area. Once the dust settles, he picks up the large sword. It's still rusty but slightly less terrible than the one he had. He also grabs a wooden shield. With his upgraded gear, he moves on. The next room holds an altar of Rakaratas. The system rewards him for his discovery with a slight boost in mana and intelligence. He recalls that the leader of the labyrinth vary in personality. Some are friendly, some could not care less, and others treat players like playthings. Rakuratas is the leader of conflict and death, which in simpler terms means he enjoys watching people suffer. Standing before the altar, our boy feels a heavy ominous power ahead, stronger than anything he has encountered. Suddenly, Tian's decision to run away makes perfect sense, probably the only smart thing she has done. Then, the system delivers an alert that Rakuratas wants to test him. pass the test, and get a reward which sounds simple enough. Our hero accepts, because it's not like he has anything better to do. His eagerness seems to amuse Rakuratas. Fake wastes no time and charges at our boy with a sword the size of an overcompensating warrior's ego. The impact cracks the MC's shield. If that is what happens while blocking, he decides as well to throw the thing away now. He switches gears and pulls out both swords, his trusty rusty one and the slightly better rusty one, and lunges at Fake. Their weapons clap, and our hero's grip trembles from the sheer force. Fake, on the other hand, does not even flinch. Our boy realizes that brute force is clearly not the way to go, so it's time for plan B. He backs off, lures Fake, and at the right moment, he spins and strikes. This time he lands a hit, but his sword gets stuck within the armor. Not ideal. But he has the alack weapon technique, which lets him stick close and mess up his opponent's attacks. It worked before and it's working now. After several well-placed hits, Rakurata seems confused. The MC takes a step back and is sure that the leader was hoping for a brutal all-out fight. Right on cue, Rakuratas decides to spice things up. Fake, who is now seemingly more intelligent, reassesses the fight. Our boy, on the other hand, does not understand what just happened. The servant runs its sword across its arm, and an energy radiates from the blade. It then hurls the weapon straight at the MC. The label Fake is gone and the atmosphere has shifted as well. Our boy realizes that his previous strategy won't work as this opponent is not mindless anymore. The servant lunges, and our hero barely manages to block the attack with his sword. But even with his defense, he takes damage. The servant's movements are nothing like before, but they are swift, precise, and calculated. With a single flawless strike, it sends the MC crashing against the wall. As it wields its sword like a seasoned knight, our hero can barely keep himself upright. He holds weapons in his hands, yet it feels as if he has no control over them. Every action inside this labyrinth is assessed, and once a technique surpasses a certain threshold, it can become a skill. If this swordsmanship is of such a high grade, then he will learn it. Passion burns in his eyes as he resolves to master it. But he himself is not just a swordsman, he is a player. He knows more than just swinging a blade. He summons a fireball and launches it at the servant, but with a swift slash, the servant cuts through the flames. As the embers fade, the MC has already disappeared. The servant barely has time to react before our hero strikes from behind and lands a solid hit. The servant spins rapidly and swings its blade. Our boy activates his deflect skill, but the impact still leaves him injured. He counters with apnea and presses his attack, despite the damage he receives in return. His relentless assault pays off as the system rewards him with consecutive attack skill, but he ignores the message his mana is running low. He cannot afford to drag this battle out any longer. He summons every ounce of strength, leaps toward the servant, and it mirrors his movement. Just as he prepares to strike, pain shoots through him as the servant's sword pierces his chest. This time the damage is massive, but he refuses to fall. He activates his hold-on skill and nullifies the fatal blow. With sheer force of will, he drives both his swords through the servant's armored neck. He catches his breath and watches as the servant's face is revealed beneath the armor. Instead of hostility, it gives him a rare compliment for his bravery. Then, as the system confirms the servant's defeat, he receives a rise in experience. His stats improve, his condition fully restores, and his soul attack ability activates due to his solo victory. He checks his status window and sees his health and mana have increased. But to his disappointment, there are no dropped items. Then, something unexpected happens. Rakuratas is satisfied with the battle and decides to reward him. A red-stained blade appears before the MC, which is the Rakurata's ceremonial sword. Its color deepened by the blood of past sacrifices. He can hardly believe it, as getting a weapon of this caliber on just the second floor is unheard of. A rare stroke of luck finally, but the rewards don't stop there. He also receives the proof of conflict skill, which is a powerful ability that makes him stronger the more enemies he defeats. Just as he is processing all of this, the ground trembles. A system notification appears and informs. Our boy has no idea what an apostle contract is, and there is no handy guidebook explaining it either. He sits on the ground and thinks about how Rakuratas has been hit with a penalty that limits his influence. Turns out even the leader have to deal with annoying rules. And yet, Rakuratas is willing to take the hit just to make him his apostle. It's a nice offer except for the problem that Rakuratas is, well, still the leader. The MC has been doing his quests however he wants, so he is not sure this deal will end well for him. The whole eternal servant thing does not sound fun, so he rejects it. Thankfully, Rakuratas does not throw a tantrum. Instead, a subquest pops up that wants him to kill all the enemies on the second and third floors, and he will get rewarded based on performance. Our hero is not an idiot to trust someone who has already stabbed him in the back, but the system window appears again and Rakuratas promises good rewards. Our boy just gives in and hopes that Rakuratas won't find a way to make this simple quest a nightmare. After that, he goes to the shop to grab some potions just in case things get messy. He also knows Rakuratas personally, or rather, he has seen tons of prodigies meet tragic ends thanks to the leader's bad habits. The MC asks him about the apostle contract, but he sticks to his role as a shopkeeper. He simply wants our hero to leave after buying what he needs, and our boy takes the hint. As he walks, he checks the community board to see if anyone else has met Einzar. Turns out Janiak and Taeon have, but their encounters are completely different from his. Einzar straight up spat on Janiak. Joniak tried to fight back, but his body refused to move and he got crushed instantly. Taeyeon's story is the same. For now, Juniak and Taeyeon are busy fighting rats like everyone else. Our boy gives them some advice about the giant rat's attack patterns and warns them to be careful. As for how to actually defeat it, that is their problem. With that out of the way, he focuses on his subquest. On the second floor, goblins hide in the shadows and watch him like he is their next meal. The moment they charge, the MC does not even flinch. If anything, he is excited to try out his new proof of conflict skill. His mind feels sharper, his exhaustion fades, and his stats shoot up. But the best part is that there are no limits. As long as he keeps fighting, he can keep going. This skill might just be his new favorite. Goblins drop one after another, and soon our hero sees a door ahead. He pushes it open and sees a warrior's grave. Our boy's first discovery bonus grants him a boost in intelligence and mana. He has no idea what to expect when he first touches the grave, but a sudden flash of light startles him. A ghostly figure emerges, gives him a quick greeting, and then disappears back into the grave. He stares at the grave and tries to understand what just happened. He reaches out again and the same thing happens. The ghost appears, greets him, and vanishes. He gets irritated and is not about to be messed with. The next time the ghost shows up, he grabs it midair and demands a proper quest instead of this nonsense. The ghost effortlessly slips out of his grasp and scoffs at our hero's audacity. The MC can notice that this ghost is different from the usual NPCs he has met and is more annoying. He asks about its identity, and after a whole lot of rambling, the ghost finally admits he is a warrior who has died in the labyrinth. His job is to give quests, but not just to anyone, only to those he deems worthy. And in his opinion, our boy is nowhere near qualified. He wants our hero to clear at least 30 floors before even thinking about coming back. The MC turns to leave as he regrets wasting time on a ghost with an ego complex. But just as he is about to step away, the ghost's eyes land on the ceremonial sword strapped to his back. The moment he realizes our boy has completed Rukarada's trial, his demeanor does a full spin. Now suddenly he is all eager to assign a quest. But the MC is not interested in playing along anymore. But the persistent spirit won't shut up. He declares that he has once been a legendary warrior and the fastest to descend the labyrinth. He has fought powerful foes, crushed enemies, and is basically a hero in his own story. Or rather a delusion. But when he returned to the 10th floor to rest, a monster with a true damage weapon ambushed him while he was asleep and ended his journey. The mere thought of it makes the ghost furious. He wants revenge, and that is where our boy comes in. His quest is to kill the town. Well, that depends on his mood. A quest is a quest, so our hero accepts. As he leaves the room, the ghost floats after him and plops onto his head and announces that he is going with him. The MC sighs because obviously now he has to drag a dramatic ghost along for the entire trip to the 10th floor. But maybe he can get some useful information out of him. He starts by asking about his past life. At first, the ghost acts like his past is too grand a share, but with a little persistence, he changes his mind. Now he is making an exception for our boy. Not that our hero cares, but the warrior launches into his tale anyway. He has been a prince of the great Cabard Empire, heir to the throne, unmatched in swordsmanship and strategy. People used to line up just to catch a glimpse of him. The MC listens but is unimpressed. This guy talks less like a prince and more like a street thug reminiscing about his glory days. The story continues, the world ended. He entered the labyrinth to save everyone, and then, well, our boy knows the rest. When he points that out, the ghost shoots him a glare and admits he does not like him. But his hatred for the monster that killed him is stronger than his dislike. By then they reach a door, ignoring the warrior ghost's ongoing rant. The MC pushes it open and reveals a room full of goblins. He pulls out his bow and fires. Then he takes out his sword and smack. Another down before repeating the process. The warrior ghost watches and is confused at what our boy is thinking. Our hero does not bother explaining it first, but the ghost eventually catches on that he is trying to earn a skill. However, the ghost does not like the MC's idea of claiming a skill. That gives our boy an idea. He smirks and proposes a bet that if the warrior ghost is right, he will become his puppet and do whatever he wants. But if he is right, the warrior has to answer his questions truthfully. The ghost, who is absolutely sure of himself, agrees without hesitation. The warrior ghost is having a grand time in his imagination, as he pictures our boy crawling on all fours and begging with honorifics. Unfortunately for him, reality is far less entertaining as our hero is too busy strangling a goblin to care about his delusions. Snapping back to the present, the warrior ghost starts rambling about the duel's skill, explaining how it locks F. The MC likes the sound of that. After cutting through multiple enemies and shifting to one-on-one battles, the system rewards him with a shiny new ability, Force Duel, and what a skill it is, as he does not have to worry about continuous damage, poison, confusion, or any other annoying effects. He can enjoy just pure and uninterrupted combat. Our boy is thrilled, but the ghost is not so much. He just stares, probably questioning his existence. Our hero, however, has better things to do and reminds him of their bet. That finally shuts him up, at least briefly. Then, realizing it is just a bet, the warrior ghost starts yapping again. The MC, however, is not here for nonsense. He wants answers. The warrior ghost as usual curses him. But our boy has long since developed an immunity to pointless whining. The warrior's endless chatter continues until they stumble upon another hidden chamber. Our hero removes a brick, steps inside, and his insight skill kicks in. Instantly, he spots the traps with arrows rigged to the ceiling, traps on the floor and moving walls ahead. The MC of course ignores him. He gets into position, slashes through the arrows with his ceremonial sword, dashes over the ground traps, jumps onto a wall to avoid incoming spikes, and then pushes forward between the moving walls. One tries to crush him, but he punches through it. Turns out goblin-made walls are not exactly built to last. The warrior ghost, who is left speechless, finally decides to embrace the silence for once. With the obstacles cleared, our boy earns a spring-soaked ring, which boosts mana and emits a nice smell. The warrior ghost, who is still struggling to comprehend our hero's existence, finally asks about the MC's identity. Boy reminds the warrior ghost that he already told him, but judging by the blank look on its face, the MC can see that the warrior has zero clue what he is talking about. That confirms something important for our hero. This warrior ghost knows absolutely nothing about the Ouroboros gastrolith, which means that it must exist beyond the 85th floor. Then it hits him that he has been in the labyrinth for 10 days, so he checks the community board, where players are busy panicking over. Seeing it is about time to step in, he enters the chat. Juniac provides an update that half the players who reach the Spring of Life have successfully taken the big rat down, and he believes the rest will manage. As for him and Tyon, they run the second they saw the giant rat. The MC gets straight to business and starts explaining skills. The players shower him with gratitude. He starts with the easiest one, which is pain reduction. The method is stabbing yourself in the arm with a sword straight through. The MC wants them to take their old rusty swords and stab themselves deep in the arm, all the way to the bone. The players turn pale and shiver at the thought, but he does not get why they are so scared. The Spring of Life will heal them anyway, so there should be no problem. To him it's practical, but to them it's complete madness. Moving on, he introduces the next skill, which is apnea. This requires them to jump into the Spring of Life, hold their breath until they drown, and as a little bonus, swing their swords until they physically cannot anymore. If they survive, they will gain the apnea attack skill. To the players, it almost feels like he is running a very lethal prank show. The MC reassures them that no one is forcing them, and it's their choice. He also understands their reluctance. After all, they came from a world where war was just history class trivia, and hunger was something they owned, experienced when deciding what to eat for dinner. Risking their lives had never been on their to-do list, and stepping into the labyrinth has not magically changed their personalities, despite the sheer absurdity. Tian and Jiniak hesitantly agree to try. The other players try to stop them, but Juniac shuts them down. In his eyes, if our hero wanted to lie, he would not have survived this long solo. The logic is airtight and the argument is over. The MC smiles to see that at least someone here has a spine. Joniak picks apnea first, and as he discusses it, our boy, the others watch, with almost everyone convinced that he has lost his mind. It's one thing to talk about being brave, and it's another to actually do it. The warrior ghost pops up and mentions that our hero just wasted time on something useless. But to our boy, if even one of them survives because of his help, that is good enough for him. Soon they reach the boss gate and the MC steps in. Inside, a goblin with a staff stands at the center and is surrounded by small goblins. The boss casts a spell and his guards spring into action. Our hero meets them head-on, blocks attacks with his shield, then tosses them aside. The warrior ghost nags at him to kill the boss first. But our boy is not exactly new at this. Then the boss goblin again casts a spell. Dark energy wraps around the MC, and suddenly he is somewhere else. A sea of skeletons stretches before him. Hollow eyes glare up at him. The whispers start with accusations and condemnations. They blame him for choosing the easy path, for letting them die. A hand grips his leg, another voice, which is Tan's. She blames him for not saving her and for letting her die alone. The scene twists. He is drowning, suffocated by hands dragging him down. But our hero is unfazed as he has seen worse. The warrior ghost who is watching him. The boss goblin prepares the finishing blow, but then our boy moves. The energy shatters as he swings his sword. He stands before the boss goblin and is completely unharmed. The warrior ghost is stunned to see that the MC has actually endured it. The goblin tries again and casts a madness spell, but it's useless as our hero steps forward. The goblin, getting desperate, throws out a doomed. Once again, nothing happens. Instead, our boy gets new skills, mind resistance and magic resistance. Then, he grabs the goblin by the throat and drives his sword straight through it and ends the fight. The ghost, who once thought he could manipulate the MC, finally realizes that this guy is absolutely unhinged, and worse is that he is terrifyingly good at it. Our boy drinks the beginner mana potion and feels a rush of energy. Along with that, he gets a lowly thief's tool, apparently useful for disarming traps and unlocking doors. While trading arguments with the ghost, he makes his way to the 3rd floor. His reward this time is a beginner health boost potion. The secret reward is still a big question mark. He reaches the shop and walks into what seems like an awkward family reunion. The Lost King warns our boy not to be influenced by the warrior, which of course triggers a verbal argument. Just what the MC needed, two ancient beings squabbling like kids. Our hero tries to butt in, but they are too busy throwing insults, so he summons a pile of weapons and successfully grabs their attention. He plans to sell them, and the Lost King, who is completely blindsided by the sheer number, momentarily forgets his rage. Ignoring their dumbfounded expressions, our boy picks out his purchases: studded gloves, bronze shield, metal and thorn rings, and a strength-boosting necklace. The warrior ghost and the lost king stare at him like he just performed a miracle. The MC, who has no patience for their nonsense anymore, leaves them. On his way out, curiosity gets the better of him, and he asks the warrior ghost what his deal is with the lost king. Instead of an answer, the warrior ghost gives him a warning not to trust the lost king. Still, our hero decides to keep that in mind because maybe the warrior actually knows what he is talking about. Looking way too confident for their own good, our boy punches and tosses them aside like garbage bags. Even the warrior ghost looks unimpressed. 2 rooms were cleared in a few minutes. At this rate, they will be out of here in no time. The warrior ghost suggests they move on, but the MC reminds him of an important detail, that he has the Rakurata's quest to exterminate every monster on the 2nd and 3rd floors. As he finishes off another batch of goblins, he shifts the conversation to the apostle contract. The warrior ghost finally decides to be useful and explains that the leader in the labyrinth oversee different realms, like victory and defeat, but Rakurata's plays in multiple sandboxes. Unlike the leader from their planet, these guys actually had a hand in creating the labyrinth itself. According to legend, some mighty sorcerer long ago pitched the idea to the Transcendent. They were thrilled, and eventually, as their own time ran out, they settled deep in the labyrinth, waiting to judge the poor souls who dared to enter. The Apostle Contract is basically an exclusive AP pass that provides power, rewards, and abilities beyond. The thing is that one has to follow their rules, no matter how ridiculous they are. And let's not forget that after signing up, one makes an army of the supreme enemies because Rakurata's is not exactly popular among the leader. The deeper our boy goes, the worse things will get. Hearing all this, the MC realizes he needs to think before making any reckless decisions. The part about conquering the labyrinth and earning a wish catches his attention, something Tyon never mentioned. She might have used her wish to get the Ouroboros gastrolith. However, if she could have wished for anything, it does not make sense for her to choose that. The Tyon he knew would not waste such an opportunity. Scratching his head, our boy is drowning in unanswered questions. If adventurers willingly enter the labyrinth for a wish, what about the people on their planet? So much he does not know. And yet all he can do is focus on what is in front of him. Our hero moves through the floor, disarming traps, perhaps one after another until he finally gets a new skill. Trap disarm. Feeling confident, he tries using it on another trap and fails miserably. Warrior Ghost loses its temper and throws a fit about how our boy is wasting time on a skill. But the MC has his own way of doing things, and he likes collecting skills, as you never know when one might come in handy. The ghost can only fume in frustration. After a while, our hero stretches his arms as he feels satisfied. His skill has improved a little, and as a reward, he gets the squeezed ring. That wraps up all the secret rooms on the 3rd floor. Now all that is left is the boss. He enters the boss room. The whole floor is full of goblins, so it's not rocket science to guess what the boss will be. And sure enough, there it is, the goblin chief. The warrior ghost tries to scare our boy that the chief didn't as furious because he wiped out its entire army. But the MC does not care, he has places to be. The chieftain does not waste time and launches a wave attack. Our hero dodges with ease and counters with a confusion spell. It works, but for about a second before the chief didn't snap out of it and swings his own staff at him. Our boy jumps and strikes back. The ghost, on the other hand, finds the whole fight boring. The chief didn't just as not a challenge. In no time, the MC has the enemy pinned to the ground. As system messages pop up, he grabs his well-earned rewards. Among them is a beginner health potion and a special find, an old wooden staff with traces of magic in it. Holding it, our hero is genuinely shocked. He has always thought magic is something only available through special items, and yet here he is, holding a staff that can let him use it. Even Tane was not able to cast spells without a staff. The warrior ghost explains that magic can be learned in 2 ways, either by figuring it out on your own, or by learning from someone else. The first option is out of the question, but the second has a small chance. Our boy thinks about NPCs. The actual trainers only exist in alone mode, but if one has been hidden away somewhere even Tyan does not know about, it would explain why no one else has discovered magic yet. Either way, that is a problem for later. Before heading to the 4th floor, he needs to wrap up a quest and check in with Rakurata's. Looking over his rewards, he sees level ups, an increase in soul attack, and a 3rd floor clearance prize. But there is nothing for discovering a secret room, which means there is still something hidden. He asks, but even it is clueless. Checking the whole floor again is too much of a hassle, so he is about to drop it until he notices something strange. The figures on the walls are all staring at one particular spot. He gets suspicious and walks over and uses his trap disarm skill. The wall collapses and reveals another hidden chamber. Inside he finds something new, named Monster. The goblin the ruler hangs before him. This is his first time seeing the ruler, a creature that has basically broken all limits of its species and powered up beyond normal standards. Hangaiha pulls out his sword and shows no real anger toward the MC. To him, this is just part of his job, as he has been given the role of a monster. And our hero is just the next guy to fight him. The goblin swings his sword and destroys a nearby pillar. He then makes his grand declaration that he is here to kill our boy. The MC barely manages to save himself using his deflect skill, but Hanjaha does not believe in giving breaks. He swings his sword again, very much aiming to turn our hero into a fine mist. Our boy charges forward and their blades clash. The sheer force behind Hangaiha's strikes is ridiculous. Another devastating swing comes his way, and forces him to leap back like his life depends on it. Realistically, his strength is good enough for the 50th floor if this were easy mode. But here, the power difference is laughable. Even the warrior ghost looks worried. Hangaiha moves in for another attack, and our hero desperately looks for a plan. His opponent wields a massive great sword, which means a close-range fight could actually work in our boy's favor. He rushes in, all while thinking he has outsmarted the guy, only to realize that the ruler had the same brilliant idea. Hangaiha twists his sword at the last second and completely shuts down the MC's approach. Thankfully, our hero reacts just in time and activates his deflect skill again. But then the ruler unleashes a power strike, and this time, our boy is not fast enough. The hit lands like a truck, and he receives massive damage, and his movement slow for the next few seconds. He cannot even retreat, all he can do is hold on and wish. His vision blurs, which makes dodging a total guessing game. With no other choice, he activates his counter skill and uses the 5 seconds in the MC starts losing balance and barely keeps himself from toppling over. He keeps using deflect to fend off the ruler's relentless strikes. But the damage keeps piling up. Just when it feels like he is about to be turned into a fine paste, the 10 seconds finally end. He quickly jumps behind the ruler's seat and catches a brief moment of relief. The warrior ghost checks on him and suggests something sensible like running for his life and coming back stronger. But our hero refuses because common sense is for quitters. The warrior ghost tries to talk sense into him, but our boy has a point that rewards don't come easy. If he moves to the next floor without clearing this one properly, his rewards will drop to a fifth of their original value, and the special prize will vanish completely. He forces himself back to his feet, despite the warrior ghost's exasperated size, but the MC does not care. Everything he has done has led up to this. He did not push himself this far just to chicken out. He came here to win, not just survive. Every decision he made was a calculated risk to maximize his success. Or at least, that is what he tells himself. That's stubbornness actually. His fighting spirit resolve and even his stats get a boost. He also gains a special ability, the eyes that reveal his opponent's weaknesses, which should make this a lot easier. There is no way the system would throw an unbeatable enemy this early on. So he looks for an opening, and then he sees it. The ruler has not moved from his throne at all. That is when it clicks that the guy does not have legs. He takes this as his golden opportunity and gets ready. The ruler, who is impressed by his resilience or maybe just entertained, decides to actually fight him. Our hero activates his apnea skill, then slams his fist into a nearby pillar with everything he has got. The structure collapses and sends debris crashing down. He wastes no time and casts a confusion spell on the ruler and launches fireballs and arrows his way, but it's no use as the ruler slices through them all like they are nothing. It's almost insulting how ineffective they are. The attacks fail, but our boy still has a trick up his sleeve. He points the ceremonial sword at the ruler and ducks behind the seat. Then he activates his force duel skill. Now nothing in the environment can interfere except for weapons and summon beasts. The ruler accepts the MC as his final opponent, and with that the real battle begins. The ghost for the first time feels something other than irritation, that is hope. Up until now he has only seen our boy bulldoze through fights using sheer stats, but this time things are different. He is up against an opponent who actually stands a chance. Meanwhile, the MC has no time for such thoughts. A violent explosion shatters the chair that the ruler had been sitting on, but the guy barely flinches. He taunts our hero that he cannot be defeated from a distance. The ruler then swings his sword and is determined to keep the MC at bay. However, our hero effortlessly maneuvers through the attack, moving in ways that even the warrior ghost finds unsettling. He takes some nasty hits, but before it can get worse, he activates the hold-on skill, nullifies the damage, and becomes invincible for a split second. And really, that is all he needs with cold efficiency. He drives the ceremonial sword into the ruler. One stab turns into another, then another. The ruler in his final moments smiles, pays our hero a compliment, and then dies with the battle one. Our boy receives bonus skill. He checks his status window and finds a new skill, Power Strike, which makes the attack stronger, and Acceleration, which can turn him into a human projectile. As a reward for uncovering a secret, he obtains a proficiency boost potion, which he decides to save for later. He also gets the Master's Necklace. Only then does he notice the warrior ghost has gone completely silent. The usually mouthy spirit has nothing to say now, but he does not bother fishing for a reaction. The warrior ghost looks like he wants to comment, but ultimately holds back. With his quest completed, the MC returns to Rakurata's tomb, where Rakurata once again offers him the apostle contract, and as expected, our hero declines without a second thought. Rakurata then rewards him with the barrier skill for the successful accomplishment of the mission, which can absorb incoming damage and increase in strength based on his health. To our boy, it feels like unlocking a second health bar, and he is one step closer to being unkillable. With that, Rakurata spits him farewell. The warrior ghost, who has spent the entire time cowering behind the MC, finally exhales. With our hero's new loot secure, our boy recalls Tan mentioning that this floor is ruled by orcs who are tough, intelligent, and true warriors. Upon stepping through the gate, The MC finds himself in front of Baltazar's altar, an elaborate structure crafted by devoted followers as a direct link to the leader himself. The warrior ghost informs him that Baltazar is the leader of victory, and is neither good nor evil, just really into winning. The leader takes an interest in our hero and offers him a test. Our boy hesitates. The last time he accepted a trial, Rukureda's nearly turned him into a cautionary tale. The warrior ghost, however, encourages him, as he has faith that the MC is strong enough to handle it. After a moment's thought, our hero agrees. Baltazar reduces the interference area and seeks permission from the inhabitants of the 4th and 5th floors. 20 votes are in favor, with only 1 opposed. Then the entire floor trembles as if an earthquake has struck. Our hero realizes that something major is happening and rushes to open the door and check outside, only to see that the labyrinth has transformed into a STR. The warrior ghost explains that Baltazar had a hand in constructing the labyrinth, which is surprising but not entirely impossible. Our boy does not waste time standing around, as staring at walls won't change anything. He decides to move quickly and check things out. He opens the first room and comes face to face with an orc wielding a sword. The moment it spots him, it gets into a battle stance. And that is when our hero understands the earlier vote. He charges in with ceremonial sword in hand. Their blades clash, but the orc's weapon is significantly larger, and that gives it the advantage. The MC takes a hit, but thankfully it's his barrier that breaks first. Adjusting his approach, he leaps and strikes the orc's shoulder. He immediately notices that these monsters are much tougher than before. It dawns on him that the problem is not strength, but technique. The orcs are not just swinging wildly. They are actually using structured combat forms. Copying them won't cut it, and he needs to actually learn their technique. The warrior ghost notices our boy's growing interest in swordsmanship, but instead of being helpful, just tells him to move to the next room. The MC moves on, clears the step, and then reaches the boss chamber. Before stepping in, he wonders where the secret room on this floor could be. The warrior ghost is as useful as ever and has no clue. Our hero decides to deal with the boss first and figure it out later, inside. He comes face to face with the orc champion, exactly as described, but then an unexpected cry for help interrupts his thoughts. He turns his head and spots a girl crying. The warrior ghost actually recognizes her and is shocked to see her alive. The girl in turn recognizes the warrior ghost as well, and immediately clings to our boy and begs for help. Apparently, the labyrinth did some weird shifting, and she got kicked out. When she finally got her bearings, there was an orc standing right next to her. The warrior ghost bursts into laughter and informs her that it's all our hero's fault. The girl cannot believe it, that the MC, who looks like he just entered the labyrinth, yet everything changed because of him. That is when our boy puts the pieces together that the secret room on this floor is not a place, but an NPC. With that in mind, he shifts focus back to the orc and tells the girl to wait. Warrior ghost reassures. Our boy notes that the orc champion is not even acknowledging the girl, but it's targeting him specifically. He accelerates toward the orc and delivers a devastating power strike and slices off its leg. The orc roars in pain and enters the berserker mode, but the MC is already a step ahead, and before it can do anything, he speeds up again, and with another power strike its other leg. And just like that, the fight is over, and he levels up again. The girl stares in disbelief. Taking down an orc champion is supposed to be a nightmare. Yet this boy made it look like a simple workout. Still in shock, she asks who he really is. Instead of answering, our hero asks for her name. She turns to the ghost for reassurance and then introduces herself as Lilith, someone who prays for magic. She shares her story that she came to the labyrinth searching for knowledge, hoping to learn magic even though she had no natural talent for it. Basically, she was willing to risk it all for a dream. Grateful for the rescue, she thanks our boy and apologizes that she has nothing to offer in return. But the MC knows better that she has something far more valuable than gold or treasure. So when the MC asks her to teach him, she looks at him blankly. She does not think she can teach him something that has taken her years to master. But before our boy can even start negotiating, the warrior ghost jumps in. He points out that since Lilith has only made it to the 9th floor, everything beyond that would be like stepping into a death trap. With our boy's help, she would have a shot at survival. He also hypes up the MC's reputation, and just like that, the warrior ghost's pitch works. And Lilith agrees there is just one tiny problem. Since she has been knocked away from her original spot, she has absolutely nothing on her. So there cannot be any lessons for our hero just yet. But since the 6th floor is also full of orcs, it should be similar to this one. So she decides to stay in the next room on that floor and meet our boy there, and with a flick of her magic she disappears. The MC cannot sense her at all, which means her magic concealment is not just good, but brilliant. He then turns to the warrior ghost and asks why he is suddenly acting like a decent person. The warrior responds by yelling at him for completing, but our hero has noticed a shift in the ghost attitude ever since he took down the ruler. He just does not get why. The warrior ghost gives some vague excuse about seeing our boy's potential and something about atonement. The MC lets it go and decides to eat. He also checks the community board simultaneously. Juniac and Tian have finally cleared the 1st floor, and they are also the only ones actually trying to learn new skills. He then moves on to sorting through his secret rewards, a gray wrist brace for defense, an engraved spell scroll that can enhance an item's magic, and his luckiest find, Lilith. Apparently, just stumbling across her counts as uncovering the floor's secret, which means bonus loot for him. He uses the scroll on his ceremonial sword, boosts its attack power, and grants him health regeneration with every successful kill. Plus his attacks now have a chance to send enemies flying. He gets satisfied and turns his attention to the 5th floor, where the base reward is a fancy sword and an unknown secret prize. At the shop he plans to offload some loot, but gets distracted by a small bottle tucked among the other items. He asks to take a closer look. It contains power. The Lost King, however, is not buying into the marketing. One person has bathed in it for good fortune and promptly slipped on their own bad luck, while another used it on a weapon, and all it did was make it shinier. Our hero turns to the warrior ghost for insight, but he is just as useless. That is fine, as our boy already knows the truth. In his past life, people have spent a fortune on this stuff before realizing it does absolutely nothing. But he has figured out otherwise. The powder has a subtle but powerful effect. It can slightly alter probability, so he buys all 3 bottles in stock. As he leaves, he checks his system window and sees that Valtazahar is pleased with his performance and wants to reward him. He takes it as the leader's cryptic way of telling him to clear the 5th floor. The warrior ghost points out that the leader are actually adjusting their interference zones just to keep an eye on our hero. Apparently that is a big deal, since they rarely do that even for their most devoted followers. But our boy could not care less. He is not here to impress the leader, but he is here to grind for loot and level up. He reaches the 5th floor as first. He launches into battle using power strike and rapid attacks to wear it down. He stabs it multiple times with the ceremonial sword, and after a few more hits the monster finally crumbles. As he gets victorious, he feels a surge of excitement. Stronger monsters mean better rewards, and he is just getting started. Our boy has started to feel the heat as he clears the 5th room. The monsters are getting tougher, pushing him to his limits, but the thought of what lies ahead keeps him going. After all, once he conquers this floor, he will not only get some nice rewards, but also finally learn magic. He turns to the warrior ghost and asks about his encounter with Lilith. The ghost shares that she had been in the labyrinth since his first arrival, which was over a century ago. Just like our hero, he had once saved her from an orc. But unlike him, Lilith never made it past the 10th floor. For 100 years she had been stuck and remained unable to grasp even the most basic magic. She entered this place with dreams of becoming some all-powerful mage, but without talent, she got a 100-year-long lesson in disappointment instead. The warrior had helped her out of pity and assumed. Upon hearing that, the MC can see that this place has a handful of NPCs. Over on the other side, a door creaks open and a few small rocks roll inside, and her goblin spots them and follows them out. Waiting right beside the door is Tiny. The moment the goblin steps out, she expertly covers its mouth and drives her blade into its side. It struggles but ultimately dies. She successfully lures them out and eliminates them one by one. Through the community board, Juniak praises her for the clean execution. Meanwhile, he himself stands before Rakurada's altar and notices our boy's warning not to choose this the leader and wisely listens. At the same time, an easy mode player, Choi Young-huk, starts venting on the community board. Apparently, he has had enough of alone mode players like Juniak making the monsters sound worse than they actually are. Some of his allies back him up, and before long an argument breaks out. Our hero also scrolls through the board and sees that a month has passed in the labyrinth, and instead of focusing on survival, these people are busy picking fights. He figures that by now, players in easy and normal mode must. As long as they play it smart, they will not die. But clearly for them, logic has taken a backseat, and instead of blaming the actual problem that is the labyrinth, they have decided to target alone mode players who are the main attraction in the community. He can see that this is different from the previous world. Back then, things were not this messy, because the one stirring up trouble now, Young-hyuk, had once been kept in check by the MC. But now without him around, Young-hyuk has probably already formed a guild, taken over easy mode, and decided that alone mode players are his new favorite punching bags. As per the rules of the labyrinth, different modes prevent players from meeting each other. And if a lone mode player mentions that something is really as brutal as it seems, clearing it is borderline impossible. But Young-hyuk thinks he can do whatever he wants without consequences. The poor guy has no idea what is coming. Our boy simply posts that he will contact them in a month and shuts the board. With that, he moves toward the final room of the floor. Waiting inside is the boss, the orc tribal leader, Ratran. The massive orc studies our hero and acknowledges his fighting spirit. Every single one had met their end with a proud smile, and they were more interested in the thrill of battle than actually trying to kill him. Ratran lay out a harsh truth that the orcs are stuck here, bound to this place without knowing when they will be free. But if they must remain, he at least wants one real fight. He roars and surges with energy, and the system flashes a warning that Rotround has now become significantly harder to defeat. But the MC is also ready to face it. Ritrion is lying on the ground, totally beaten, and tries to process what just happened. He never expected the MC to be this strong. The guy had zero knowledge of sword fighting, yet he fought like a pro. Rotron cannot help but wonder who this guy really is. Even after losing, Rotron feels content. If he has to be defeated, at least it was a fight worth remembering. He just hopes that our hero won't hesitate to finish what he started. With this, the MC completes the Valtazahar's trial and gets his rewards. First up is the Belt of Fighting Spirit, which boosts both attack and defense while restoring power and mana after every win. Basically an ability that lets him continuously upgrade a stat of his choice. And for that, our boy picks mana. Vault is a hard then offers an apostle contract, and our hero turns it down without a second thought. Moving on, he collects more prizes. For clearing the floor, he gets the brilliant ornamental sword. For the secret room, he receives the Blade of Self-Harm, a weapon that drains his power, but lets him store it for later. He decides to test it out and slashes his forearm and watches as his strength drops. He decides to save it for emergencies. His final reward is the Dark Robe, cloak that grants him a brief moment of invisibility. He puts it on, disappears for a second, and then reappears. As he moves forward, the warrior ghost takes notice of the dual swords in his hands, and mentions that his own technique follows the same path. He shares that he created and perfected a swordsmanship style based on the Cabaret Empire's great swordsmanship and earned the title of Swordmaster along the way. The MC naturally wants to learn it, but the warrior ghost thinks that at our boy's current level, it would be the fastest way to get himself killed. With that in mind, our hero reaches the 6th floor, where the engraved spell scroll is up for the reward. He remembers Tian mentioning this floor was a nightmare because of the swamp. The worst part is that the monsters move freely while players slog through the mud. Predictably, the lizardman charges at him. The MC sets them on fire with his staff. As he clears the swamp, his insight skill improves. When a lizard man lunges at him, he kicks it down, and upon killing, mana increases again. And after dealing with other lizard men, he pushes ahead. Then he notices a single brick sticking out from a wall, so he pushes it back in. And Lilith is waiting for him at the top, looking way too pleased with herself. Inside, she perches on the stairs like she has some all-knowing sage. While the MC kneels before her, she is clearly enjoying this moment of superiority. But thankfully, she moves on to the actual explanation. Magic, according to her, is not something one just picks up, as it has to be given or earned. That is why it allows for ridiculous feats like creating fire. She then demands that our boy address her formally, since he is now her disciple. He agrees without hesitation, as obviously if calling her teacher is the price for learning magic, so be it. She demonstrates a simple fire spell, but to our hero, it just looks like an everyday flame. Apparently, that is normal for people who come from worlds without magic. As for actually learning magic, she explains that it's pretty straightforward. Just form a contract with the leader of magic. Except, according to the warrior ghost, the leader don't just hand out contracts. Lilith only got one because she was a complete fanatic. The MC, who has already turned down multiple apostle contracts, is not exactly eager to sign another one. But before he can overthink it, Lilith takes matters into her own hands. She transfers her magic to him, since in the labyrinth, magic can be taught to someone who does not have it. The result of which is that our boy can now summon a tiny spark. Not exactly groundbreaking, but it's a start. He also gains 2 new abilities, magic granting and magic extraction. Now as he watches Lilith, he sees it in a completely new way. He never noticed anything like this in his past life. Meanwhile, Lilith is excited as she is ready to turn him into a proper mage. Lilith explains the easiest way to learn magic is by extracting it from magical items like staffs or enchanted tools. Lucky for our boy, he already has some. Using magic extraction, he successfully acquires 2 spells, a basic fireball and a random mind attack. Tests the fireball and watches it flare up and cannot help but be impressed. Lilith then explains another method, which is by learning directly from someone who knows the spell or offering a tribute to the leader. Unfortunately, only apostles can do that, and our hero is not on the Supreme VIP list. But Lilith has a workaround, as she can make the tribute, learn the spell, and then pass it on to him. All he has to do is provide the tribute she needs. The MC agrees and Lilith gets all excited. Our boy then asks if she can teach him invisibility spell, but she immediately shuts him down. Apparently she did not actually learn her magic. She just received it, which means she cannot hand it out like free samples. To pass it on, she needs to offer an. In short, if our hero wants magic, he needs to hand over tributes twice, one for the leader and one for Lilith. On top of that, the tribute must be weapons or equipment with real value. The MC dumps a pile of items in front of her, expecting at least one to be good enough. But Lilith is unimpressed, as the leader don't care for quantity, but they want quality. Finally, he shows her the fancy necklace for the master, and she calls it worth a basic spell. So our boy pulls out the ceremonial sword. But Lilith tries to warn him about some potential disaster of taking the leader so lightly. Then he presents an old wooden staff, and finally, Lily the proves our hero hands it over to her. Lilith asks what magic he wants. The options are fireball, which he already has, ice arrows, which is the same thing but colder, basic detection, which is basically a monster radar, the veil of cover, which can turn them into a blur, and food production that creates water and porridge, which, according to Lilith, tastes like sadness. The McPick's food production. The warrior ghost, who knows the horrors of goblin meat, could not be. Lilith starts casting the spell, and a powerful gaze falls upon our boy, surprisingly. The leader of magic grants permission without making a fuss. Lilith is stunned because as far as she knows, the leader is usually a picky control freak. Even the warrior ghost had to jump through hoops to get magic, but apparently our hero just exists, and the leader love him. With that settled, the MC decides he will come back later with better tributes to learn more magic. Afterward, he moves on, now effortlessly roasting monsters with fireball magic. The warrior ghost suggests he just keep going and hand over tributes to Lilith if he finds anything worthy. But our boy is focused on his status window. His barrier has grown significantly, which is great, but the warrior ghost is less interested in stats and more interested in moving forward. Then, for reasons beyond mortal understanding, our hero starts taking off his armor. Then his pants. The warrior ghost immediately spirals into panic mode. But before the ghost can lose what is left of his sanity, the MC calmly puts his pants back on, followed by his shirt. The warrior ghost, however, is already spiritually traumatized. Our boy just wants him to watch. A lizardman hiding behind a tree sees our hero standing there, seemingly defenseless, and takes this as its golden opportunity. It rushes in only to get grabbed mid-attack. The hit still lands, but it barely does anything, and as a result, the MC gains a new skill, Solidify. And because he did not actually lose any health from that first attack, he gets another skill. First attack nullification. The lizardman charges again. Our boy activates his new skill, grabs the creature by the neck and throws it away, finishing it off. Our hero remembers his previous life's battle with Shrank monsters, especially the attack nullification skill. Unlike blocking or dodging, this ability just erases the attack from existence and leaves the opponent completely dumbfounded. The warrior ghost knows exactly what kind of suffering the MC just went through to acquire it. Now, our hero uses the blade of self-harm and restores his barrier. The Solidify skill he picked a few moments ago cuts an incoming attack's damage in half, but of course that is not enough for him. He wants more nullifications. The warrior ghost is worried, and for good reason. Our hero already took a beating to earn the first one, and his barrier is barely clinging to life at just above 30. If he takes 2 more hits, it's game over. But our boy is not concerned at all. He has got the powder of fortunate, which is his cheat code. He covers himself in all 3 bottles and steps into the next room. The moment he enters, a lizardman spots him and charges to stab him. The MC activates his first nullification skill and makes the attack disappear like it never existed. The lizardman tries again. This time our hero dodges, but he still takes some damage. His barrier, which was already struggling at 35, drops to 18. Apparently, the system calculates damage based on multiple factors like accuracy, evasion, defense, and luck. And there is a 10% damage fluctuation purely based on chance. So if an attack should deal 30 damage, the final number could be anywhere from 27 to 33. Decided entirely by fate, fortunately, Powder of Fortunate tweaks the odds slightly in our boy's favor. And to top it off, using more than 3 bottles guarantees lower. Lizardman attacks again, and our hero's barrier finally shatters, but that is exactly what he wanted. In exchange for losing his shield, he successfully acquires his second nullification skill. Now that he has got what he came for, he finishes off the lizardman and launches it into the sky like he is punting a football. Not wasting time, he moves on and swiftly takes down another lizardman by stabbing it straight through the heart, which is its weak spot. And just like that, he gets another skill, weak spot attack. With most of the floor cleared, he decides to take a break before the boss fight. He sits down and eats what can only be described as the blandest excuse for food ever. It tastes like flavorless porridge, but it's still fuel. While eating, he asks the warrior ghost about random mind attack and whether he can stack its effects. The ghost explains that the spell needs to finish its effect before it can be used again. Our boy recalls a conversation with Lilith, where he learnt that magic skills count as abilities in the labyrinth. So he tries to reshape a fireball into an arrow, but it fails spectacularly. The warrior ghost watches as the MC struggles with what is obviously high-tier magic. Still, our hero refuses to give up. He forms 3 fireballs and causes them into the distance to start a fire. This sparks an idea that if he can acquire new skills by replicating certain effects, maybe magic works the same way. He puts his theory to the test. He knows he cannot merge fireballs while holding them, but something clicks when he throws one away. The moment it leaves his hand, its energy feels different. He decides to test it further, drinks some mana potion, create another fireball, and fires it in the same direction. He jumps after it, creates another, merges the 2. Recalling his conversation with Lilith, he repeats the process, jumping, forming another fireball, and fusing it into the growing mass of flames. Again and again he refines the technique until finally, a massive burning sphere slams into the wall. And just like that, he unlocks the burning ball. The MC faces off against the Lizardman champion, the 6th floor boss. He hurls a burning ball at it, but the Lizardman champion blocks the attack. Our boy decides to switch things up and hits it. Despair and madness spell, followed by another burning ball. Even the warrior ghosts pity the Lizardman champion's tragic fate, but pity does not save lives, and soon enough the Lizardman champion gives up on existence and keels over. As a reward, our hero gets an engraved spell scroll. The secret reward, however, is a little more exciting. The cold-hearted staff, which reduces mana cost per spell cast, a solid item, but he tosses it into his inventory for later. Along with these, he also receives the champion necklace, but after one glance, he realizes his current The Ruler's necklace is still superior. He considers offering it as a tribute to learn another spell. After a while, Lilith takes the champion necklace, casts a few spells, and the MC now has eyes. While checking out the room, he notices tiny safe zones that appear after clearing a floor. He then discusses ice arrows with the warrior ghost, and they start whispering like conspirators, which obviously confuses Lilith. When she demands to know what is going on, they decide to take her out first. Once outside, our boy forms a burning ball, and Lilith's reaction is nothing short of priceless. Turns out it took Lilith 100 years to master invisibility magic, while the MC, blissfully unaware of how difficult magic is supposed to be, just pulled off high-tier magic like it was no big deal. Lilith, of course, does not take this well. She goes on a rant about how magic tiers are vastly different, and that beginner-tier magic and above require actual fusion, unlike basic spells that can just be slapped onto a staff. Somewhere along the way, she collapses dramatically and whines about how unfair the world is. She wants to know how he learned it so effortlessly, but to our hero it's not even a big deal. That response nearly kills her. A few moments later, Lilith is half dead on the floor, worn out after trying it. Since wizards don't exactly do stamina training, she is completely out of energy. Still, she thanks the MC, as this whole experience has made her realize how much she still has to learn. With that, they part ways and our boy heads to the next floor. On his way, he checks his status window and sees his stats looking solid, some even better than in his previous. He steps into the 7th floor and learns that the clearing reward is the dirty being's necklace. The warrior ghost will teach him his empire's swordsmanship on this floor, but before that he has a long story. Apparently in his world, strength was everything, and the weak were basically decorative background characters. Even the royal family played by these rules, as he had to take out his own siblings to claim the throne. He admits he can never go back now, and leaving behind his swordsmanship is his only way of making peace with the past. A touching story really, except our hero is more interested in whether the technique is actually useful. The MC finds a spacious room and figures it's a good place to train. The warrior ghost explains that his swordsmanship has no defense and just pure offense. The key is predicting the opponent's movements and striking before they can react. Our boy points out that some attacks simply cannot be blocked, which makes this technique a bit unreliable, but the warrior ghost insists it's ridiculously powerful. Well, if it's that good, our hero figures he might as well take it. The warrior ghost places a hand on the MC and transfers the high-tier skill Sword of Storm Scarves. Our boy checks the skill and sees that proficiency is at a solid 0. Turns out, ghosts can pass down knowledge, but not skill mastery, which means he has to figure it out himself. The warrior ghost tries explaining the technique, but our hero struggles to grasp it. He is supposed to aim for the chest, bend his arm, move left, and use his body's elasticity, except he just ends up tangled in his own clothes. The warrior ghost is struggling to put swordsmanship into words, but reassures him that he is not untalented, just inexperienced. The MC then asks if proficiency basically equals experience, and the warrior ghost confirms it does, as it only improves with practice. That is when our boy remembers the proficiency boost potion he got from defeating Hangai Ha. He drinks it, and sure enough, his Sword of Storm Scar's proficiency jumps up. Following the ghost's instruction, he finally pulls off the technique perfectly. Just as the warrior himself once did, our hero picks up a rusty sword from the shop, a choice that makes the Lost King confused. Not exactly the weapon of legends. But our boy is not here to impress, just to survive. Not long after, he finds himself. Hands-on combat is the only way to truly master the Sword of Storm Scars, and there is no better way to start than with a sword of this kind. As the fight continues, he realizes something. He can see every single counter against the lizardmen's attacks, like the creature is moving in slow motion. A few strikes later, the fight ends and his proficiency increases. The warrior ghost tells him to move his wrist more, as apparently he has been too stiff. Our hero makes the adjustment, and just like that, his fight starts ending faster. Following the warrior ghost's instructions, he challenges another lizard man. One fight turns into another, and before he knows it, night falls. He lies down to sleep. Much to the warrior ghost's disbelief, our boy's routine is downright insane. With half the day fighting, 6 hours perfecting his swordplay, and the rest is just enough sleep to not drop dead. But for the MC, this is the realm above compared to aimlessly wandering around in a strange world. The warrior ghost, however, is convinced that this guy is absolutely nuts. 3 days pass, and our hero's skill sharpens to the point where, but something still feels off. Before he can think further, another lizard man appears. Instead of overthinking, he does what he does best, which is to fight. He listens to the warrior ghost's instructions, takes slow, deliberate steps, clears his mind, and moves instinctively. As he strikes, illusionary wolves suddenly appear and pounce on the lizard man. The lizard man does not stand a chance, and with the fight over his proficiency jumps. The warrior ghost explains that this technique is called Wolf Fang and is the first form of the Sword of Storm Scars. However, he does not get the MC's hopes up. There are other techniques, but he won't be learning them by chopping down these weaklings. Even if they make it to the 10th floor, the ghost doubts he will be able to teach our hero the second sword. Still, he acknowledges the progress as our boy now holds a high-tier skill with just over 10% proficiency. Meanwhile, on the other side, Tian is suffering through a meal of goblin meat. It's as disgusting as it sounds, but her wallet is not exactly overflowing, and shop food costs a fortune. She chews through it miserably, all while dreaming of Peter. And honestly, she just wants to go home. Then, the system bombards her with notifications. A special mission pops up stating that everyone will return to their worlds in a week. But they need to survive first if they want to come back to the labyrinth. Performance-based rewards are included, and declining is not an option. She immediately brings it up on the community board, where Jaean and Jaesung join the discussion. Junaeok, however, is not buying into the excitement, while the others celebrate. He reminds them of one small, easily forgettable detail, that they were thrown into the labyrinth in the first place because their world was already swarming with monsters. Silence follows, and suddenly this whole return home thing does not seem as comforting as it did a few seconds ago. The MC keeps an eye on the ongoing discussions about the latest mission, while picking up beginner-level frost arrow magic. The warrior ghost notices his distracted behavior and grows curious about the community board drama. Our boy, however, just wants him to wait for the grand reveal. Right now, his priority is clearing the labyrinth fast. He storms through the secret room on the 7th floor. Moving on, he slays the elite lizardman, the floor's boss, and collects his well-earned prizes, Dirty Being's earring, which increases his mana, and as a secret reward, neat leather armor that improves both defense and ready to take down our computings. On top of that, he successfully learns basic detection magic with Lilith's help, which currently can only locate objects. Despite the smooth progress, our hero keeps stealing glances at the community board, which confuses the warrior ghost. Turns out he is on the lookout for Young Yuk, the very professional troublemaker who thrives on insulting others. Given the unexpected turn of events, the MC is sure the guy must be in panic mode, and honestly, that is going to be fun to watch. Before that though, he reaches the 8th floor, which offers Marnius Rune as the standard reward. The moment he steps in, a bird-like monster called Marconda appears. Our boy jumps and skewers at midair. He finds these creatures easy to handle after all. They run purely on instinct. There is no need for him to waste fancy sword techniques on them. The warrior ghost remarks that, taking this as a perfect excuse to test his magic, our hero starts torching the creatures with burning balls of fire. Eventually, he stumbles upon Oman's altar. The warrior ghost explains that Oman, the leader of trials, enjoys throwing challenges at adventurers just to see them struggle and discover their own strengths. In his opinion, Oman is the ideal leader for the MC at this stage. Our boy accepts the trial. Instantly, the surroundings are sealed off by a towering wall of water, and a shadowy figure emerges from the altar and lunges at him. Our boy steps back to assess its movements, immediately notices it's slow. With a single swing of his rusty sword, he takes it down and gets a dexterity boost. The next shadow was faster, but still not fast enough. Another easy kill and another free strength increase. The warrior ghost points out that these trials reflect the strength of 1st and 2nd floor adventurers, which means this is basically a self-evaluation test. Our hero takes this as a chance to see how much he has grown and continues. The 3rd trial increases his intelligence, 4th boosts dexterity again. By the 6th round, the shadows start using skills. One of them goes for a fierce stab, with the MC counters with frost arrow. It's defensive, takes it down and acquires a mana boost. He then blasts the next shadow with burning ball and gets a higher strength boost. Finally, he faces a shadow that matches his current level. This time he mixes things up, first casting a confusion spell, then following up with frost arrows, another clean kill and another big mana boost. Then silence falls. He waits but nothing comes out of the altar. The warrior ghost starts laughing because apparently, Omen is only allowed to summon shadows up to an adventurer's current floor level. If our boy wants to keep going, Omen has to pay a price, and he does not seem too eager. Unlike Rakuratas and Valtazahar, who had no issues pushing our hero to his limits, Oman is acting hesitant. The warrior ghost finds it hilarious. Looks like the MC's uniqueness is making even the leader second-guess themselves. Our boy waits for a moment, then prepares to leave. But just as he is about to move on, Oman pays the price and throws another trial at him. Our boy knows that from here on, but instead of feeling any sense of fear, he is excited. As another shadow comes out from the altar, he slices through it as a reward for completing the 5th trial. His strength increases, his deflection skills sharpen, and his soul attack power gets a nice boost. He welcomes the upgrades but still cannot help but wonder what these shadowy figures truly are. The warrior ghost explains that they are past adventurers who either failed their trials, made deals with the leader, or simply died and donated their souls to the cause. So in short, they are the leftovers of history's less fortunate adventurers. Our boy decides to test his abilities on them. He flings a burning ball at the shadow, follows up with a madness spell, and then fires frost arrows for good measure. The 10th trial ends and grants him yet another strength boost. At this point, he starts noticing a pattern that these shadows are not just godly playthings. They each have their own unique fighting styles. As he moves past the 12th floor, things start getting interesting. The shadows begin using various skills, but in their rush to be fancy, their movements turn clumsy. By the 15th floor, however, things change, and the shadows now match or even surpass his stat. Unfortunately for them, our hero still has more tricks up his sleeve. Burning Sphere, Acceleration, Power Strike, one well-placed combo, and down goes another shadow. His strength, dexterity, and mana all go up. Though these battles don't grant him experience points, his soul attack and stats keep climbing. So basically he is leveling up without technically leveling up. Then comes the 18th floor shadow. He swings his sword as he expects another clean hit. The shadow has other ideas. It grabs him and drives a blade into his back. Thankfully, the MC had activated first attack nullification beforehand and turned the tables, finishing it off. Then comes the next problem, a massive shadow wielding a battle axe. Our boy blocks the hit with his swords and barely holds on. The system informs him that this one is undefeatable, but our hero does not back down. He has been through too much nonsense to quit now. The shadow swings its axe and activates Assault, a skill that forces its user into a wild, uncontrollable attack. The downside is that the MC, being no fool, takes full advantage, accelerates forward, lands a power strike and finishes the job with a well-placed stab. Before he can even shake off the exhaustion, the 20th floor shadow appears and activates complete victory. But our boy is not defenseless. He has resilient mindset. The shadow charges and he deflects. So far so good until the thing punches him hard. He tries a madness spell, but the shadow shrugs it off like it's nothing and knocks him to the ground. Injured but not out, our hero cloaks himself in his dark robe, disappears from sight, then reappears behind the shadow and ends the fight in one clean strike. With the 20th trial cleared, his stats receive another boost. Along with his soul attack power, he is officially stronger than before. But before he can even hold his exhausted body, another shadow steps out from the altar. Our boy takes one look at it, raises his hands and surrenders. Oman, watching over the trial, ends it and falls silent. Our hero checks his status window and sees solid stats as expected. The warrior ghost beside him, however, cannot believe that an 8th floor adventurer, Omen, on the other hand, rewards the MC with a ring of proof. As a bonus for surviving the trial, our hero also gets the proof of limit. Then, like every other the leader before him, offers him an apostle contract, and like every other time before, our boy declines. Omen obviously does not take the rejection well and splashes our hero with water. Still, our boy walks away with a sense of accomplishment, as his current limit is officially above the 20th floor. He also decides to flex a little and post about the trial on the community board. After that, he clears the secret room and gets the sturdy ankle brace. Then he comes across the 8th floor boss, Mark and Lucia, with his boosted stats and newly gained soul attack. The MC absolutely demolishes it. The warrior ghost who has been watching his progress can see the power level skyrocketing. As the reward for the floor, our hero receives the Marnius rune, which lets him infuse an attribute into a weapon. And as a secret reward, he gains Touch of Exploitation, a skill that lets him steal a portion of his enemy's health when he deals damage. With 4 days left before heading back to their planet, he can see that these little green pests are unexpectedly strong, stronger than a lizard man. The warrior ghost mentions that their leader must have trained them. Upon hearing that, a certain name clicks in our boy's mind, Manhwa, the former goblin the ruler. If he is out of the picture, then the new goblin the ruler must be behind this and is definitely waiting somewhere ahead. Fast forward to 3 days before departure, and the MC is now staring down the hobgoblin chieftain. He throws on his dark robe, swiftly ends the fight, and moves on. With a bit of trap disarming, he finds another secret room and comes face to face with the goblin the ruler. Court law asks if our hero was the one who defeated Manhwa, to which the MC gives a nod, but our hero has questions of his own, like why Rutla threw the former the ruler off the throne. Turns out Rutla is all about legacy. He wants to be remembered as the ruler, not just another goblin who got stomped on. With that, their fight begins. It does not take long for Rutla to realize the brutal truth that he is hopelessly outmatched. His skills, movement, and swordsmanship are nowhere near, but at least he has got heart. He gives it everything he has, and seeing that the MC decides to return the favor. Eventually, Rutla falls, but there is no regret in his eyes. Instead, he tosses his spear to our hero as a final gesture of acceptance. With Ritla's defeat, our boy earns the Kingslayer title. Now whenever he faces the ruler, king, or monarch, his rewards and stats will get an extra boost. He then visits Lilith, who teaches him Veil of Cover, a skill that lets him hide his presence. After that, he stops by the shop and blows half of his money on potions for the floor rewards. He claims the Boots of Swiftness as the basic prize and the Frost Sword as the secret reward. Now it's time for the 10th floor. This time, he has got the warrior's quest to take down the one who killed him on this floor. The warrior ghost senses the end of his own journey, and thanks the MC for keeping at least a small part of his existence alive. He even tries to say an early farewell, but our hero just keeps his response to himself. The MC stands before the 10th floor's so-called guardian, a massive ogre. The beast charges at him, but our boy barely even tried. With that inconvenience out of the way, he moves forward, disables a trap in a secret room, and claims his well-earned prize. The blue ring, his next stop, is the boss room. After dealing with the boss who also could not put up a fight, he stands before the hidden chamber to finally come face to face with the one responsible for the warrior's death. Taking him down will mark the completion of the warrior's quest, but before that it's upgrade time. He enhances his frost sword with Marnius's rune, an engraved scroll, and bestows it with thunder attributes, which gives it a tiny chance it might slow enemies when triggered. With his weapon now slightly cooler, he turns to the warrior ghost and is curious about his situation. Apparently the ghost is still technically part of the labyrinth, bound to his grave, but thanks to our hero, he is now sort of free and still stuck to the MC because of the quest. Our boy thinks of something and wonders what will take priority. The warrior's bond to the labyrinth or his bond to him. The warrior ghost, however, just stares at him and is obviously confused. Before he can unravel this thrilling mystery, the moment arrives. And the first thing he notices is the scent of grass. He is back, but he is not alone. The warrior ghost is right there beside him, looking completely lost. First things first, the MC heads to a convenience store. Though it looks more like a post-apocalyptic mess, the air reeks of 3-month-old spoiled food, which is not the homecoming scent he was hoping for. He grabs some canned ham and sweet corn, grills the ham using fire on a ceremonial sword, and eats. Turns out, while labyrinth items technically belong to the labyrinth, players can keep whatever they bring back. However, he was not sure if the same rule applied to living beings. And yet, here stands the warrior ghost, still very much existing. As they walk, the ghost stares at cars, buildings, and pretty much everything else like a lost tourist. Our boy gives him a quick rundown, but honestly, he is more focused on the massive rift in the sky, the very thing that dragged him into the labyrinth, and is now busy ruining his planet. The warrior ghost senses some weird power from it but needs a closer look. Our hero, however, decides to save the apocalypse research for later. The MC grabs it mid-air and asks the warrior about it. After some expert ghostly analysis, the warrior confirms that the creature's master is ridiculously strong, and even stronger than Rakirata's. Our boy then burns the monster to ash and moves on. His next stop is City Hall, as instructed by the special quest, with the only condition to reach it alive. Most people, when faced with a disaster, would have chosen to hide and wait for authorities to save them. And judging by the number of corpses decorating the streets, that strategy clearly did not work out great. Despite everything, our hero is not rushing. He is looking for someone. The warrior ghost assumes it must be Juniok or Tiong, but the MC has someone else in mind. Just then someone steps into view. The exact person our boy had been looking for. And who is it? None other than Jung-un. What a coincidence, or maybe not, considering our hero had been walking around like he had all the time in the world. Jung-un offers to team up and head to City Hall together, and our boy gladly accepts the proposal. Jung-un takes our hero to a group of other players and introduces. Our boy, on the other hand, sizes up the group and notices that he does not recognize any of them. They all look like easy or normal mode players, basically the kind who scream and run at the first sign of danger. Also, none of them can see the warrior ghost floating beside him, which is probably for the best. Jung-un then announces that it's time to move forward, but the players hesitate. As they worry about the monsters ahead, Jung-un promises to protect them, which is all it takes for them to put their faith in him. The warrior ghost, however, is far less impressed. To him, this group is a complete waste of space except for Jung-un, who, at least, has some combat ability. But what really puzzles him is why someone as capable as the MC is tagging along with the squad of liabilities. Their march is soon interrupted when someone points at a monster. Jung-un instructs everyone to stay back and bravely steps forward. Our hero takes one look and can see that it is the kind of monster even an easy mode player can handle. But of course, this world does not play by normal rules. Here, only hard mode players can take on something like that. Jung-un at least makes quick work of it as he stabs. And just like that, a routine is established. If a monster appears, Jung-un fights it while the rest of the group cowers in a corner. If another one shows up while he is busy, they start to panic, but then something weird happens. Someone starts picking up rock and taking out monsters from the shadows. The players assume the monsters have just disappeared into thin air. But Jung-un catches on and turns his gaze toward our boy. After all, the MC is the only one who has been completely calm since they first met. But he brushes the thought aside and keeps moving forward. While the MC continues playing Guardian from the shadows, the warrior ghost, however, is losing his mind. In his eyes, these people are not just weak, but they are an embarrassment. Instead of at least trying to fight as a team, they have decided their best strategy is to sit back and let Jung-un do all the work. Our hero finds it rare to see the warrior ghost this furious. To calm him down, he points out that, technically, he is the odd one. Here, the others have chosen the easy labyrinth, so expecting them to act any differently is not right. But the warrior ghost is stuck on something else, as he has never heard. The MC then explains the concept of different labyrinth modes to him. The warrior ghost, of course, has never heard of such a thing. His theory is that someone ridiculously powerful must have made multiple copies of the original labyrinth, which sounds like an insane amount of effort. The bigger question is the reason. Whoever has done this is not just powerful. They have to be on a whole other level, probably above even the leader. Our boy has a weird feeling about all this. The monsters they have encountered so far are too weak. If someone really wanted them dead, they could have just sent a high-level monster right from the start. Instead, it feels like they are being monitored, and their progress is deliberately controlled. The warrior ghost has mentioned in the past about how the leader loved watching mortal struggle, and honestly, our boy would not be surprised if that is exactly what is happening. The ghost wants to hurry to the city hall, but the MC insists on sticking with the group. Not because he particularly cares, but he just does not want to get involved with those who have no real chances of survival. Well, except for Jung-un. If the others die, Jung-un will take it hard, and our hero already knows. In his past life, Jung-un led a group to the city hall only to be the sole survivor. The streets are a nightmare, swarming with monsters while the unlucky survivors hide wherever they can. Night falls, and they are eating monster meat. Our boy on the other hand is enjoying ham like he is on a picnic. Then a guy comes up to him. With all the confidence and entitlement, Lee Changsok, leader of the Athens Guild, demands the ham as if it is his birthright when the MC does not hand it over. Changsok drops a threat that he will kill our hero once they return to the labyrinth. Our boy, however, points out the small detail Changsok seems to be overlooking. That there is no guarantee he will even make it back. After all, as he remembers from his past life, this very guild behaved around like kings of the labyrinth, only to get wiped out on their second run. Changsok's face twists in rage and he throws a punch. But before his fist can land, Jung-un steps in and catches him mid-action. He then grabs his mouth because apparently had enough of the guy's talking and punches him straight in the face. He makes it very clear that Changsok can believe whatever he wants, but if he steps out of line again. That night, Jung-un stands guard while everyone else sleeps. Our hero approaches him and brings up how some of the players are terrified of him. Not that they are wrong to be. Jung-un, however, does not care as their fear is necessary. If they don't listen, they will die. Simple as that. Besides, keeping them in check has its perks, and he actually thanks the MC for the opportunity. Our boy, however, does not get it. Jung-in could have reached City Hall alone without any problem. And as a hard mode player, he should have known better than to waste time on people doomed to die. The survival rate is 1%, which means saving someone weak is just a temporary delay before they meet their inevitable fate. Jung-in's anger flares for a moment, but as he looks in our hero's eyes, a thought strikes him that this guy has seen far too many people die. And one thing is now obvious. The MC is not just some normal mode player pretending to be tough. Morning comes and Jung kicks everyone awake. They have a city hall to reach after all, but in their grand survival plan, two minor details have somehow slipped their minds. First, the monsters only attack people heading towards city. Second, anyone traveling alone has either already made it or, well, is now monster food, which explains why the roads are suspiciously empty then, just to make things worse. 3 monsters block their path. Junkin orders everyone to run. He knows that he can probably handle 2, but 3 are way too much. Just as they start to bolt, Monster goes for a kick, and Jung-un does what he always does, that is, he throws himself in harm's way. City Hall is so close he can practically taste it, but there is no time for that. Using apnea, he engages the monsters, then tosses powder of calm to create a barrier. Just as he turns to check on the others, his stomach drops as he sees that they have stopped. More monsters have arrived surrounding them completely. The players look at Jung-gun, with their eyes filled with fear and a touch of hope, because obviously he is supposed to pull some miracle out of nowhere. But the problem is that he has nothing left, no items, no tricks, and no clever escape plan. He can fight sure, but he won't win. Running away is an option, and a very tempting one on top of that. He can still get out of this alive, but they have trusted him. If he is just going to abandon them now, then there would be no point in saving them in the first place. For the first time, Jung-jin finds himself completely stuck. He has no idea what to do. Jung-in is a good guy, kind, decent, and the type to help others. But let's be real, not that good. He is not about to throw his life away for anyone. Just as he hesitates, the MC steps forward and asks if he is really going to run away. Jung-in takes it as mockery, but our boy makes it clear that he is not judging. But he is just curious about what Jung-un has done in the past. Tears well up in Jung-un's eyes. He does not want to run away, but he does not have any other choice. If only he were stronger, maybe he could actually do something other than stand there and look conflicted. Before he can drown further in self-pity, a monster lunges at him from behind. The MC unsurprisingly handles it in half a second, as he cuts it down with his frost sword. More monsters charge, but our boy burns them all to ash. He then orders everyone to keep moving towards City Hall. After what feels like an eternity, they finally arrive. Some kids even find their parents, which made the whole trip at least somewhat worth it. Somehow, word spreads that Jung-un has been the one protecting everyone, and when he tries to clear up the misunderstanding, our hero shuts him up. The players head inside, and while the place looks packed, it is painfully obvious that compared to the number of people who should have been here, not many have actually made it. Later, as the MC rests, Jung-in approaches him all while holding out a bottle of water, like some kind of offering. He has figured out the MC's identity from the community board, the very same guy who has helped him learn a lot. Now he is here to be all heartfelt and thankful. Our boy redirects the gratitude right back at him, but Jung-gun is not having it. He is determined to follow our hero's lead and ready to be his loyal sidekick or something. But the MC chucks the water bottle at his face and makes it clear that he does not need an emotional support follow. Just then a girl arrives, Kim Hoo-yeon, a hard mode player looking for Jung-gun. She has come to update him on the situation, but is now staring at our hero. The MC recognizes her instantly. In his past life, they have crossed paths plenty of times. She has always been strict, disciplined, and a little too obsessed with rules. And most of them are easy or normal mode players, so they do not have exactly an elite army. To make matters worse, they are running low on food and shelter, and no one has any clue what kind of nightmare quest is coming next. So they need a leader, originally who we plan to take charge. But then Zheng Yuk, the guy who cannot even handle a basic monster, decides he should be in charge instead. His grand achievement is whining that they are looking down on easy mode players and taking hostages. The captives, Taeyeon and Junhyuk, are not exactly weak, so our boy can predict there has to be another reason they let themselves get caught. Wheein wants to wait and see how things play out before making a move. Our hero, however, has no patience for that nonsense. She reminds him that violence is not an option, but he is not particularly interested in rules right now. Now, the world is already in ruins. What is he supposed to start caring about protocol now? Hu-yun, who is still the same as ever, stands firm. She has always been the type to cling to order, even when it makes no sense. She stuck to her rules and died trying to save someone else. She can sense that the MC is not exactly on the same page, but since she sees him as just another Yoonghun, and she figures she has a shot at stopping him, she goes for her sword, probably thinking she can at least slow him down. But before she can even react, our boy knocks her down. Yoongun, fortunate his heart, tries to question our hero, but the MC is already moving. He has more important things to do, like dealing with Yoonghuk, the self-proclaimed leader. Yoonghuk was having a productive day by blackmailing some poor guy with his men under the pretext of collecting debts. That is when he happened to glance out the window and saw a monster. Later, inside the labyrinth, things took a turn for him. He was running for his life from a monster when some guy saved him. Instead of being grateful, Yoonghuk did what any self-respecting scumbag would do. He killed his savior and stole his stuff. In a place like the labyrinth where there is no law, no order, and just survival of the most shameless, pushing someone over the edge is child's play. By now, Yoonghuk has already lured high-level players to his side, keeping them in check with a mix. Toss a bone here and there and suddenly people forget they have morals. His next goal is total control of the labyrinth. He is lost in a rather grandiose fantasy about his future rule when Tan brings him back to reality. Honestly, things have been going well for him. He arrived right in front of City Hall with no monster encounters, no unnecessary struggles, and just a straight ticket to the safe zone. Even those alone mode players he was so worried about turned out to be utter disappointments. Still, he did have a brief moment of panic when Taeyeon and Junhyuk showed up, but he blackmailed them using another hostage and forced them to back off. Now feeling all high again, he starts spouting nonsense about how weak alone mode players are. But then our boy shows up, glass shatters as he enters, his presence alone making the room feel 10 degrees colder. The sheer intensity of his aura sends Young Hyuk's instincts into survival mode. He scrambles and raises his walkie-talkie as he tries to play his last card with a threat that if the MC does not stop, he will order the hostages to be killed. Then Hu-yan arrives, barely standing and supported by Young-gun. She wants our hero to stop. Young-yuk, of course, takes this as his moment to shine. He lays out his brilliant terms to guarantee his safety and authority, and in return, everyone gets to live. Wheon, however, does not think an easy mode player should hold so much power. But Young-hik argues that leadership is about experience, not strength. He has managed one of the labyrinth modes after all. He is so busy inflating his own importance that he fails to notice our boy until he takes the walkie-talkie right out of his hands and crushes it. Poor Young Hyuk has made a critical miscalculation. When you spend all your time stepping on people, don't be surprised when someone steps back. Still, he is not out of tricks yet. He clicks a remote in his pocket and triggers the ceiling traps. Stone pillars come crashing down on the MC, and Young-yuk allows himself a victorious smirk. Even if our hero survives, he has to be at least a little injured. Except when the dust settles, our boy comes out safe and sound. Junhyuk starts to panic and summons his men and orders them to kill our boy. The MC simply draws his frost sword. Hyeon makes a weak attempt to intervene, but our hero makes it clear that. And so he cuts them down and starts to step closer to Jun Hyuk. Sure, Taeyeon and Junhyuk might have struggled against so many enemies, but our hero is built different. The players outside the building are dying of boredom. Among them is the warrior ghost, who is resting like he has all the time in the world. But finally, something worth watching happens as the MC appears on the edge of the building. All while Young-hee ockles him by the head, the others stare and are absolutely stunned. Unlike them, the warrior ghost is thrilled as finally, there is some real entertainment. Young-yuk trembles as he is just one step away from a rather unfortunate drop. He barely manages to stammer out a question about our hero's existence. But the MC only feels a little bad for him, as after all, this is the second time he is going to kill him. Not that Young Hyuk gets to process that thought for long. Our boy crushes his head and tosses him off the building. The watching players immediately lose their minds and shout accusations of murder at our hero. The MC, however, finds himself wondering how he even managed to kill Young-hyuk in his past life. Back then, he was just... It had taken him months of struggle in surviving the labyrinth, getting stronger and barely scraping by to finally beat him, and now it's almost too easy. Young-gun approaches the MC and warns him that things are about to get tougher. Apparently, Hyeon and the others are already whispering about him, but our boy does not care. Soon they won't have the luxury to keep running their mouths. Meanwhile, over on the other side, some men are making a grand show of protesting against our hero. To them, he has to be punished as he is dangerous, and civilization will crumble if he is not stopped. Hu-young, who is already exhausted, points out the obvious, that the MC fought all those players alone, and yet they want her to deal with him. That does not make any sense. One of the men insists they cannot just let our boy run around turning this world into his personal battle arena. They need to stop him and enforce some kind of law. Weon had thought these guys who proudly call themselves congressmen and civic leaders might actually have a plan. Instead, they turn out to be utterly useless. Worse, they have not even stepped foot in the L. They are just mooching off their followers for food. She regrets ever asking for their input. Now she has a different problem about figuring out a way to keep our hero in check, without getting herself or anyone else killed in the process. Before she can dwell on that depressing thought, a system notification pops up. In 12 hours, the first wave of monsters will begin. Defense zones are set up at the north, south, east, and west of City Hall, and they have to defeat the enemies to protect the area. Immediately, panicked players flood the room and bombard Hyan with questions. She calms them down, then notices that the so-called congressmen have quietly disappeared. Outside, our hero has also received the update. He trusts Weon to handle things as she has done it before in his past life, and hopefully she has not suddenly become incompetent. Nearby he spots Tan and Juniak. Juniak offers a polite thanks, and it turns out they both can see the warrior ghost. As they talk, the MC's gaze lingers on Tan. She is young, and it is obvious she is scared of him. Pushing that aside, he cuts to the chase. They discuss the upcoming battle, and then he orders them to draw their swords. Then there is Tyan, who is far too timid for his liking. Our boy does not want them dying some pathetic avoidable death, so he decides to test them the best way he knows and offers them a duel. Juniak hesitates, as obviously there is no point in fighting someone leagues ahead of him. But our hero reassures him that the skill he will use adjusts their stats to match the weaker opponent. And he won't activate any abilities either, not that it matters, because this is not a request. Juniak finally accepts, as he feels determined to prove he is not weak. Tian, on the other hand, thinks the whole thing is completely insane, which to be fair is not entirely wrong. But Jun Hayek sees this as a golden opportunity. Normally, he would not stand a chance against the MC, but with the stats equalized, there is a tiny chance. And honestly, that is good enough for him. Joniak charges at our boy, with his sword swinging with all the confidence in the world, only for our hero to bat it away. A sharp pain hits Juniak's shoulder as the MC's blade slices through, and before he can even process it, Juniak tries to block. Really he does, but he fails. Our boy whispers that Joniak should just admit he is weak. Naturally, Juniak's pride won't allow that, so he goes for another desperate attack, but is smacked down even harder. He hits the ground, and our hero does not even give him a moment to collect himself. He stabs his sword into the ground beside him. In his eyes, Joniak might be strong here, but in alone mode, he would be monster food in under a few minutes. He also recalls that in his previous life, John Hayek had died before they even had the chance to meet. Juniak, on the other hand, is lying there, and his brain is struggling to process the massive difference in their abilities. Seeing this, the MC decides that they will just keep fighting until he finally gets it. Half an hour and a lot of bruises later, Juniak crashes to the ground once again, but this time, reality has properly kicked in. He knows exactly that he stands at the very bottom. He finally admits defeat and our boy claims his victory. Next up is Tion. The second our hero turns to her, she starts shaking and surrenders before he even lifts his sword. Unfortunately for her, giving up before the fight. So to prove a point, the MC rushes at her and wants her to block his attacks, and she manages to do so but barely. She even swings. Our boy spins and counters and expects her to crumble, but even Joniak notices that despite flailing like a beginner, she is actually holding up pretty well. Our hero finally grabs her shoulder and shoves her to the ground, ending the match. He tells her she is stronger than she gives herself credit for. But that does not mean she should let it get to her head. With that, their training session is over. From then on, the MC teaches them proper skills and strategies to survive the labyrinth. By the time night falls, he wraps up the lesson and tells them to share the knowledge with the other players. Before parting ways, he adds a simple but important warning not to dot. Their reaction is weird. They exchange a glance and our boy questions their look. Turns out they expected him to be some ruthless, heartless brute, but instead, he is kind of nice. Well, that is their problem. Our hero opens the system to check that just oversaved. Meanwhile, Hyan is drowning in paperwork and looks like she is losing her mind. She nearly jumps out when the MC suddenly appears. Having casually slipped in through the window like some kind of nighttime assassin, he asks for an update. Huyan explains the plan that since monsters will be attacking from all sides, she is splitting their forces accordingly. To make movement easier, she plans to send the players outside before the battle begins. Not everyone was on board with that though. Some outright refused to fight, and she barely managed to talk them into it. Our boy listens, then makes a request, which honestly seems more like a demand to leave one entire side to him and move the players stationed there somewhere else. She agrees to do so and even offers her gratitude. He then leaves. Now with only 30 minutes left until the first wave, the air is thick with tension. The players, most of whom were probably regretting all their life choices right about now, brace themselves for what's coming. At the south, Weon leads her group. At the west, Yongun commands his forces at the east. Tian and Junhak stand ready. And at the north, completely and utterly alone, our hero waits. The fight finally begins. Barrier seals off the entire city hall, and within seconds monsters come pouring in. At the southern part, upon seeing that players scatter and start running for their lives. But before they can even think about escaping, another barrier traps them inside. Wheein tries to keep everyone together so that they won't panic. But with the monsters closing in, she has no choice but to focus on the fight. A player Jung Jun-young is frozen in place and shakes as a monster lunges at him. The thing strikes and he braces for death, but as he opens his eyes he finds the monster dead, and Hyun's blade sticking out of its body. She wants him and the others to get a grip and fight. That is when the players finally notice that the system is rewarding them based on their performance. This piques their interest as they realize they can actually profit from this, and their fear turns into motivation. They start fighting back, and Hyun finally breathes a little easier. Meanwhile, over on the east side, Taeyeon and Junior Hook are slicing through monsters. The others marvel at their strength, but the two know better that compared to our hero, they might as well be waving toy swords. Speaking of our boy, he is busy handling the north. Even the warrior ghost beside him seems bored because it's too easy for him. When he is done, he tries breaking through the barrier but fail. With no other choice and zero concern, he decides to relax and waits for everyone else to finish their job. Eventually, the other groups manage to clean up the mess, and the system announces the quest is complete. Rewards will be given once they return to the labyrinth, but before anyone can pat themselves on the back, a new message pops up with the announcement of a second wave coming. A single monster steps out of the rift. A confident player rushes in as he tries to finish it off in one swift strike, only to land his attack and realize that it did absolutely nothing. In a blink, the player is brutally killed, then the monster roars and causes chaos, and players start to run for their lives. Amgen attempts to stop them, but as he turns around, the monster swings its weapon, and a whole chunk of players are gone. Meanwhile, on the north side, the MC is literally sitting on the very same type of monster dead beneath him. He watches the chaos through the barrier. The players on the other side clearly want to get to his side. The barrier does not stop. He slaughters the monster spilling out. Then, the system hands him a new mission to destroy the Black Swamp's blood vessel. He eyes the thing. It's smaller than the one in the sky, which means this won't solve the core problem, but at least it will cut down the monster numbers. He grips the ceremonial sword and stabs it right through, and a new monster appears. The monster slams the MC into the ground like it's trying to plant him there permanently. Its strength is no joke, as according to the ranking system, the smaller the number, the deadlier the beast. The ones they had fought before were child's play compared to this 6-digit high D ranked nightmare. Before our boy's regression, humanity had been nearly wiped out by these ranked monsters. Back then, he had barely managed to take this one down after 3 retries. But this time he is going to make sure things go a little smoother. Our hero does not waste time. He goes full offensive, and strikes the monster again and again until he finally gets a clean stab in. Thanks to his attack nullification, the beast's retaliation might as well be a light breeze. Then, just to make things worse for the poor thing, he freezes its claw. He shoves both his ceremonial and swath sword straight through its mouth, as well as tosses in a burning ball for good measure. An hour later he drinks the potion as the monster is finally down. That done, he moves on to destroy the Black Swamp's blood vessel with frost magic, and finishes the quest. Another quest notification pops up, which means someone else also had completed the mission. Over on the south side, Hweon has somehow managed to kill the monster as well. After watching countless people die, those who initially ran away finally realize that running does not really work when the entire world is trying to kill you. Unfortunately, most of them had already learnt that lesson the hard way. Wee Young, feeling the weight of her failure, cries and regrets that she had not been a better leader. As the barrier fades, her first thought is our boy. There is no way he could have handled something this strong alone, no matter how absurdly skilled he is. So, dragging her injured self forward, she orders the others to follow her north to help him. She is not about to lose an asset like our hero, not when he is the closest thing they have to a one-man army. But just as she pushes forward, the system congratulates them on their survival, and in 2 days they will return to the labyrinth. Out of the massive number of people who started, only 30,000 are still standing. Hu Yun, who is still drowning in guilt, wants our boy to take over as leader. But he knows better that he is not exactly leadership material, and honestly, people would rather follow her than someone like him. He wants her to remember the brutal truth that she cannot save everyone. But at least the survivors know she fought with everything she had. As they look to her for guidance, she straightens up and gives a speech about survival, and rallies them for whatever nightmare comes next. As our hero gets ready to leave, Junyak and Tian show up, and are not thrilled about splitting up. They thank him for helping them grow stronger and promise to keep training. Because if this mess has proven anything, it's that they desperately need it. Weon and Youngun are there too and hope to see him again. The MC does not mind that either. With that, he turns and steps back into the labyrinth. In his, ready for whatever fresh disaster awaits, our boy stands before the 10th floor's boss room. But before getting down to business, he gets to collect his well-earned reward. The system hands him bonuses for wiping out the monsters on their planet and offers him points and numbers, which he can convert into gold stats or skill competency. The exchange rates for gold are disappointingly low, and since it is something he can grab whenever, he considers putting some into stats. But with his current balance, it would not do much. The real prize is skill competency, which usually takes ages to improve, boosting it by 20%, A skill might evolve into something new, sometimes significantly, sometimes barely noticeable. He then turns to the warrior ghost and asks what would happen if he leveled up his sort of storm scar skill. The ghost, who has been stuck in deep philosophical thinking mode since their return, does not have an exact answer, but insists that improving his physical body first would be the smarter move. The MC then opens his status window only to be greeted by a chaotic mess of options. One thing that catches his eye is magic. He decides to dig deeper and heads to the 9th floor, safety zone, and spills everything to Lilith. When she hears he can boost his competency level by 50%, she looks like she just heard the dumbest thing. She immediately warns him not to share this with anyone unless he wants to get assassinated, and apparently the stronger one's magic competency, the more useful it becomes. Right now, his competency is so low that even beginner-level spells are out of his reach. Magic in the labyrinth has different levels, but how much of it one can actually use depends on competency. Normally, at 20%, someone can squeeze out the full potential of basic spells, but only half the power of beginner-level ones. At 40%, they can finally use beginner magic properly, and at 60%, they can control intermediate-level magic like a pro. Now, first, our boy spends 100 points to boost his detection skill by 10%. By using it, he can see enemy weaknesses, hidden rooms, and even get occasional helpful insights from the system. With the rest of his points, he levels up magic and unlocks magic acceleration and magic explosion. Now he can actually control elements like fire, ice, and wind without looking like a total amateur. He decides to test it on the burning ball and notices it's now bigger and great for intimidation, and sees that it not only moves faster but also hits harder. Then he experiments with frost arrows, shattering them into sharp fragments using magic explosion. Now onto the main event, which is the 10th floor boss, the ogre fighter, Arf. Her hero launches his burning ball and cranks up its speed with acceleration magic. The flames engulf the ogre, but of course he is not done yet. He throws in a confusion spell to mess with the beast's movements, and drops a magic explosion on it. Not satisfied, he continues the onslaught with burning balls, frost arrows, and another explosion for good measure. The ogre never stood a chance, and with that the fight is over. His reward is the ogre ring. After getting his business done there, he speculates that he might just cruise through the 20th floor, using magic alone. The warrior ghost finally snaps out of his deep thoughts and agrees. When the MC asks what has been on his mind, the ghost reveals he was thinking about the rift that appeared in our boy's world. That gets our hero's full attention. Someone destroyed their world and he needs to know who. According to the warrior ghost, there are some rare individuals who somehow managed. Once someone reaches a certain level, they shed their mortal status and become transcendental beings. While they gain incredible strength, it comes with a downside that they cannot just recharge like a battery. Once their power is used up, it's gone. Only after proving themselves and being assigned a domain, do they finally upgrade to full-fledged the leader. But not all higher beings play by these rules. There are the leader, the ancient nameless entities who can interfere in mortal affairs without any penalties. Unlike transcendental beings who have to be careful with their power, the leader don't. The warrior ghost has never seen them, and only heard about them through rumors and scattered records. Apparently they vanished ages ago after some war between transcendental beings. But right now, our boy is more focused on the invaders trying to destroy his world. Their reasons remain a mystery, but according to the warrior ghost, they cannot afford to send their strongest fighters. Well, supposedly, because our hero still remembers the apostle they sent back then, someone so powerful even Tyon could not defeat. While conversing, they finally reach their destination and the warrior ghost. Our boy enters the room and encounters the sage ogre, who makes it clear that he has no intention to throw a punch. Instead, he asks for a final chat before his inevitable demise. Surprisingly, the warrior ghost does not throw a tantrum and just tells the ogre to do whatever. That alone is enough to shock the ogre. He remembers the warrior as reckless, arrogant, and not exactly the listening type. The sage ogre talks about how the leader and adventurers once hated the warrior because he was weak-hearted. Maybe that is why the warrior did not kill him before, because he was the only one who ever let him speak. But in the end, that had been a mistake. The warrior was an adventurer, and the ogre was a monster, and there was no deep, touching connection between them. The warrior ghost is about ready to explode, but our hero is not attacking just yet. He is more interested in the ogre's weapon. And for good reason, as this is not some random piece of junk. The warrior ghost recognizes it as an offensive artifact, something so rare that even strong adventurers struggle to get their hands on it. And yet here it is in the hands of a 10th floor monster. When asked about it, the ogre expert and steers the conversation elsewhere about how much the warrior has changed. But then, he drops the real bombshell that the weapon was given to him by the Guide of Sin, with a task to kill the warrior. They even threatened the ogre's life, which left him no choice but to accept. The warrior ghost is boiling with anger. The thought that his enemies were too afraid to face him directly, and instead resorted to bribing monsters, is insulting. The ogre, however, is done talking. He accepts his fate and is ready for whatever comes next. The MC does not hesitate, and with one clean strike it's over. The system acknowledges his victory that he has cleared the 10th floor, but along with that comes a disturbing message. Higher beings are watching him, some with curiosity, others with hostility. As a reward, our boy claims the ogre's weapon, Edge of Calamity. The warrior ghost is not sure whether to be grateful or doom the ogre for it, but for now he focuses on something else. As a proper reward, he gifts our hero Cabot's relic, a sword soaked in the blood of ancestors. The system describes its abilities as it grows stronger against enemies of noble lineage. He gives the MC a new mission to hunt down and eliminate everyone involved in his murder. Our boy of course accepts, meanwhile somewhere else. The Guide of Sin is already on the move and is looking for more useful pawns. Half of the adventurers who have given up on conquering the labyrinth decide they are not cut out for the whole fight to survive thing. Instead, they band together and form a group called the Guide of Sin. But instead of taking on the maze like proper adventurers, they choose the easy way out. That is by becoming parasites. They set their own rules, limit how far others can go, and anyone who does not obey, well, let's just say they don't stick around long enough to complain. Our boy is busy doing what real adventurers do, that is, kicking monster butt. He takes down the Skeleton Knight, the boss of the 11th floor, and gets his rewards, the Bracelet of Counter Move, an ogre ring, which is basically just a fancy human bracelet and a lion ring. According to the warrior ghost, the big shots of the Guide of Sin are hiding out in the deeper floors, while their underlings are scattered around. He steps onto the 12th floor and is immediately hit by a stench so bad he almost regrets coming down here. The theme of the labyrinth has changed because apparently every 10 floors things have to get worse. From here to the 20th floor, undead monsters are the main attraction, which explains the lovely aroma of rotting flesh filling the air. Not long after, he comes across the altar of Maria. Unlike Rakurata's, Maria's is so plain he would not have even noticed it if not for the system's update. The warrior ghost explains that Maria is the leader of choice. However, he cannot spill any details about her test, as apparently the conditions for him and the MC are different. The only thing our boy really needs to know is that Maria is powerful, and like all powerful beings, she is totally unpredictable. As soon as he touches the altar, a quest pops up. Maria wants to test him, and of course, she is not about to go easy on him. She even offers an intensified version of the test. Our boy, being the MC, accepts without a second thought. But Maria laughs and wants him to choose between fighting a lot of enemies or just a few. It's pretty obvious she just wants him to, well, choose. The warrior ghost confirms it, since there is no way of knowing which choice is better. He picks a small number of enemies. Maria is not done messing with him yet. Next, she asks if he wants various types of enemies or just a few types. He goes with the latter. Eventually, though she seems satisfied, then the real fun begins. The room expands, and before he can even think, monsters from every floor he has ever fought start pouring in. The rules are simple. He cannot leave, and if he does, he loses. The ogre rushes at him and the MC activates apnea and is ready to fight. This is a whole new kind of battle, one that forces him into a playstyle he absolutely hates. And that is when it hits him that Maria has set this up on purpose. She wants him to fight in the worst possible conditions to push him to his limits. Well, if that is what she wants, he would be happy to show her what he can do. He activates Evidence of Struggle, a skill that makes him stronger with every enemy he defeats. A giant orc charges at him, and he greets it with a power. But before he can celebrate, more monsters swarm him from behind. And he grabs a snake-like creature and throws it straight into another monster, and then finishes them both off with frost arrows. As the fight rages on, he barely has time to breathe. More enemies keep coming, and honestly, he is kind of enjoying himself. The MC finally cuts down most of the monsters, but exhaustion is written all over him. Just one more to go. The one in red armor, the Death Knight. Tian had mentioned it was the boss of the 20th floor, but the fancy ornament hanging from its neck seems a little too extravagant for just another mindless monster. He wonders if, like the servant of Rakurata's, this one was once human, and to make things even better, there are 4 of them. He uses the Blade of Injury to recover some stamina. Not that it makes him feel any less like collapsing, but at least he is still standing. The knights come at him and he dodges as much as possible. But it's a little hard to be untouchable when there are 4 armored freaks trying to turn you into mincemeat. He activates Force Duel on one of them, while thinking he can take it down quickly. Except the knight just jumps back and completely ignores his efforts. He then fires off a bird, and sends them straight at the knight at high speed, but the knight dodges them easily. Our hero realizes that brute force is not going to cut it, so he changes tactics. If swords alone don't work and magic alone does not work, then it's time to mix things up. The knight rushes at him and grabs him, but the MC grabs it right back and slaps another Forced Duel onto it. Before the knight can react, he activates apnea, and buries his sword deep into its neck and finishes it off. Unfortunately, that little stunt drained the last of his stamina, and there are still 3 more of these guys left. He tries his best to keep moving all while blocking, countering, dodging, and then repeating all of it. It's a never-ending cycle, and frankly, he would love to take a break, but that is not an option. He shifts tactics again and activates Wolf Teeth, the first attack of Sword of the Stormscar. Fire swirls around his blade, and his attacks rip through the knights like a wolf shredding its prey. Up until now, his movements had been clumsy and stiff, and he knows that is not how this works. A blade should move smoothly, cutting down its target without losing its edge. He adjusts his technique and finds. The warrior ghost watching him looks like he just saw a miracle as our boy has instinctively learnt the second technique of Sword of the Storm Scar, Notch. Unlike Wolf Teeth, which is all about overwhelming the enemy, Notch is sharp, minimal, and ruthlessly efficient. The MC is not sure which one is stronger, but the contrast alone is enough to throw opponents off their game. Maria then interrupts him as she is ready to hand out rewards. She gives him a shape-transforming weapon and a skill called Freedom of Choice. Our boy knows what is coming next, an apostle contract, and rejects it immediately. Maria then presents him with an invitation instead. He hesitates and does not quite understand what is going on, but then the invitation gets accepted on its own. The next thing he knows, he and the warrior ghost are free-falling into some unknown pantheon's warmth. Our hero and the warrior ghost drop into total darkness, and the ghost instantly starts trembling like a scared cat. He just cannot believe Maria actually dragged them there. Our boy, on the other hand, stays calm and looks around until he spots a hall. He walks right in and the go warns him to stop wandering around like a fool, but to the MC, that warning is useless, as Maria invited him here, and he is not about to ignore a personal summon. The hallway stretches endlessly, and its floors are covered in jewels that gleam like an extravagant field of flowers. The ceiling is so ridiculously high that our hero cannot even see where it ends. At last, he arrives at his destination, to Maria, the leader of choice, and there she is lying before him in an absurdly gigantic form, like the supreme celebrity waiting to be admired. She watches him with an evaluating gaze while the warrior ghost, for some reason, rides in discomfort. Our boy, on the other hand, is unimpressed. She invited him here, and this is how she treats her guests. Maria smirks, and the warrior ghost thanks her for her mercy, probably out of fear. Ignoring him, she turns to the MC and introduces herself. She welcomes him to her hall and explains that her role is to grant mortals another chance after they have repeatedly made terrible decisions. Even standing still, our hero can feel the sheer weight of her power pressing against him. She is on a completely different level, almost, and as if that was not enough, there are apparently hundreds like her out there. The warrior ghost asks for permission to speak. When Maria grants it, he questions how she managed to summon them, considering it should be impossible. Maria dismisses it as the leader-level business, something beyond their comprehension. The real reason mortals are not usually invited is because they are simply not worthy, but our boy is the exception, the only one who survived her intensified test. The MC questions about her reaction if he cheated, but Maria's answer is blunt that she would not like him. The warrior ghost had already pulled that stunt before, and it did not end well for him. With that out of the way, Maria gets straight to the point. She wants the MC to be her apostle. The perks sound great, the power tempting, but our hero is not interested. He declines politely, and luckily she takes it well, since he has her attention. Our boy decides to ask something that has been bugging him about how much the leader actually know about him. Maria reveals that they are aware this is not his first time here. They also know about that handy little item, Uroboro stone he used, courtesy of a vomiting snake. While her words don't make complete sense, one thing is clear, she knows more than she is letting on. Before he can press further, she once again brings up the apostle contract in front of him and offers more information in exchange. This time, he does not even bother responding. Maria takes his silence as an answer and decides it's time to wrap things up. She tells him to go back, grow stronger, and promises they will meet again. She then suddenly cuts the meeting short due to something about an annoying presence arriving. Before he fully returns, he catches a glimpse of someone, just a flicker of movement, and then he is back. Up until now, the MC had assumed his only goal was to raise his stats, to surpass Tian, but after coming face to face with the sheer power of the leader, he realizes something else. If the other worlds are nothing but illusions, and if this so-called real place holds the key to ultimate strength, then he wants to see if he can fight the leader. Our boy checks out his newly acquired shape-shifting weapon, which can switch between a dagger and a long sword. He also tests a skill that lets him convert his stats into different forms. Just for fun, he converts some stamina with the protective shield and finds it surprisingly useful. As he prepares to move on, his eyes land on Maria's gift, which is a so-called fortunate from the leader. But the problem is that for now it does absolutely nothing. He asks the warrior ghost if he knows anything about it, but even he is clueless. So our hero saves it and continues forward. On the 12th floor, he faces the rotten ghoul, the floor boss. The fight is quick and almost too quick, and the reward is a pair of powerful gloves. Not bad, but there is a downside that regular monsters are now way too weak for him, which means he is not getting any proper loot. Basically, he is too strong for his own good. But what can he do but just move on? The 13th floor greets him with a swarm of zombies. At this point, they might as well be walking sacks of experience points. He cuts through them effortlessly and barely breaks a sweat, but just as he steps outside, his senses tingle as something or someone is up in the sky. Before he can fully process it, a figure drops down dramatically. The MC takes one look at him and immediately knows that this guy is stronger. Rebevas introduces himself as a member of the Guide of Sin, and then out of nowhere pulls out a massive horn and blasts it. Monsters start swarming in. Turns out the guy just hates interruptions, so he's decided to clear them out for our boy. As our hero watches Rebevas casually killing zombies, he cannot help but feel a bit annoyed. This was his fight after all. Warrior Ghost, on the other hand, is outright fuming. He recognizes Rebevas, once a coward who shook in fear at the mere sight of him. But now the guy is walking around like he owns the place. The MC decides he has had enough and jumps in to reclaim his kills. Rebevas takes this as an opportunity to show off, but our boy is not impressed. Rebevas then gets to the point and offers our hero a spot in the Guide of Sin. The warrior ghost wants our boy to decide solely for himself. Rebevas meanwhile starts going on about how breaking out of this labyrinth is a fool's dream. According to him, the leader are just toying with them, and the hidden rooms are filled with impossible obstacles. He even has the audacity. The ghost shuts that down immediately as he was not defeated by some unbeatable puzzle, but they killed him. Rebevas gets back to recruitment mode and talks about how the Guide of Sin was formed to ensure survival, maintain order, and grow stronger without dying in vain. But in order to join them, our hero would have to cut ties with the warrior ghost because apparently he broke some special laws and tried to attack them. The MC has already heard rumors about how this group operates. Even gaining strength requires permission. Rebevas confirms it but insists it's for safety, but our boy knows better what is really going on. The Guide of Sin does not just recruit, they also make sure to eliminate anyone who refuses before they get too strong. And our hero is not about to become just another name on their hit list. Rebevas throws a punch with all the confidence and fury, only for our hero to stop him. The MC dares him to try again, but Rebecca steps back and his brain scrambles. He had gone in with the intent to end this in one strike, yet here our boy is perfectly fine. But whatever, he tells himself that our hero is just a third, and the MC blocks again. At this point, Rebeva is starting to feel like a complete idiot. His frustration barely has time to settle before our boy stabs him. It's not a deep wound, but it's enough to snap him out of his delusions. Our hero can see Rebevas has solid defense, but his movements are just sloppy. The warrior ghost watching the fight cannot help but add insult to injured. Apparently, Rebevas was never properly trained in martial arts and is only at the level of a third-rate mercenary. Worst, he never even got stronger in the labyrinth because he had nothing to offer. Rebevas is now boiling over. He decides that if the MC wants to be a jerk, he will just have to crush him with everything he has got. He launches a strong attack, but our boy counters it like it's nothing. Then comes another stab. Rebeva starts to panic. He knows he landed a kick earlier and our boy should be hurt, but he is still standing, looking as unbothered as ever. Rebeva starts piecing things together that maybe Einjar gave him some ridiculous skill. He demands answers, but our hero just rushes at him and wants him to figure it out himself. Rebevas barely manages to block with his bare hands and then back away. He knows he has to put a stop to this before the MC completely overwhelms him. That is when he decides to use his trump card, the Gauntlet of Explosion. It's a powerful ability, usable only once a month, and is capable of dealing 5 times his normal damage. This should turn the tables. Except it does not, the moment he activates it. He realizes with horror that our hero just nullified his attack as if it was nothing. Rebeva's stomach drops as he realizes that this man is a monster. The warrior ghost takes the opportunity to remind him that he used to be strong when he was a 20th floor adventurer. But since he never actually fought real battles, he got lazy and weak. The MC presses him for answers. Rebevas hesitates, as obviously he has no reason to talk if he is going to die anyway. But the warrior ghost reminds him of how much they can sacrifice for the transcendental beings. And suddenly, Rebeva's survival instincts kick in and he agrees to talk. He admits he does not know exactly how many adventurers are in his group, but considering how many joined by the 20th floor, it's probably in the 100th. He also explains the labyrinth structure that every 10 floors mark a new tier. The deeper you go, the less likely you are to return, since that would apparently crush their dignity or something. Then comes the warning that no matter how strong our boy thinks he is, fighting an entire tier of adventurers is totally impossible, but our hero does not care about that at all. Rebevas recognizes it now that he used to be like our hero and grew stronger with each challenge. But the difference is that the MC never stopped improving. He starts to regret that if only he had rejected the offer, and only he had fought with honor. But there is no time for regrets now. With one final merciless strike, our boy ends him. As Rebevas falls, something within our boisterous, his spiritual power enchantment activates and his stats start rising. The MC checks in with Juniak and Tyak, and finds out that they have made it to the 3rd floor. Juniak also updates him on the other players, with those in easy mode having a rough time, probably because a lot of them did not make it back alive. Meanwhile, normal mode players are still alive, just a bit more paranoid now. Over in hard mode, Younggun reports that most people, and our boy's appearance back then gave them a serious wake-up call. Now, they are all busy training like their lives depend on it because, well, they do. They are eager to show our hero how much stronger they have become next time they meet. Juniak then mentions finding Baltazar's altar on the 4th floor and wonders if he should take the test. Taeyeon, on the other hand, has apparently found her courage and wants in as well. The MC notes how much they have changed, especially Tian, who has gone from hesitant to bold. He tells them that their trials will be different from his, so he is not much help here, but if they want to, they surely can go ahead with the trial. He then heads back and asks the warrior ghost about Baltazar's trial. The ghost recalls it being pretty easy for him, and our boy hopes his friends don't end up dead. He now has the Gauntlet of Explosion. He also checks his status window and sees he has been improving steadily. But the recent power boost is on a whole new level. The warrior ghost warns him that the remaining members of the Guide of Sin are not going to let that Rebecca's death slide. Our hero, however, is ready to welcome the challenge. Deep in the labyrinth in the Guide of Sin, the response is to kill the MC, meanwhile. On the 20th floor, the second-tier adventurers gather to discuss Rebecca's death. One of the announces that the executives have issued a search warrant, and whoever kills our boy will get promoted to the 3rd tier. Suddenly everyone wants in on the action. Since they cannot all kill him at once, they decide to roll dice to see who gets first dibs. The winner is a guy named Aldota. On the 13th floor, our hero finishes wiping out the zombies when DeWater arrives and is ready to take him down. He assumes that a mere 13th floor adventurer is not worth worrying about. He is already daydreaming about his promotion when the MC interrupts with a punch so powerful, it sends him flying into a wall. The warrior ghost calls him loud and weak, and our boy agrees. Aldewada still refuses to accept reality, transforms into a werewolf and charges. Unfortunately for him, he is still painfully slow. The MC takes him out without breaking a sweat. The other adventurers notice that Aldewada's life flame has officially gone out. The players have convinced themselves that Aldewada has failed to transfer, has died. Now it is Giuseppe's turn. He goes to hero, but the MC attacks immediately. Giuseppe wins that he was not given a warning, but our hero points out that he does not see the point in giving a heads up to someone who has shown up to kill him. No, not one to back down. Giuseppe quickly throws up a magic shield to protect himself. Our boy is actually impressed that this guy knows how to use magic defensively. Giuseppe, on the other hand, decides to cast a madness spell on the MC, but our hero counters it without breaking a sweat, using his indomitable spirit. And just like that, Giuseppe has a terrible realization that our boy is not just some lucky nobody who has miraculously taken down Aldota and Rebavuz, but he actually knows what he is doing. Giuseppe tries switching tactics and uses a particle dispersion spell, followed by frost arrows. Our boy counters with his own frost arrow. Giuseppe barely dodges them, which is honestly embarrassing for someone trained by a prestigious magic tower. The frustration is real. In a desperate attempt, he uses Thunderstroke, but the MC of course nullifies it without any effort. At this point, Jick, and then before he can figure it out, he is dead. The other players are confused that Giuseppe is gone too. One by one more players step up, determined to do better, and one by one they die just as quickly. They start to get desperate, and as one-on-one is not working anymore, they try groups of 5. But the better they came up with a fail as all of them were wiped out in a matter of hours. Now nobody wants to step up. Just then, Zejin shows up, who is a 3rd-tier dark being, and arrives just in time to see the mess. He asks where the others have gone, and one player lies that they have gone to another floor. But Zagan is not buying it. With a single punch, he knocks the guy out, and the truth spills out that everyone is dead. Zagan announces that he will kill our boy himself. Meanwhile, on the other side, the MC is busy reflecting on the fight. He has to admit, the players had decent attack and defense, but their teamwork was absolutely awful. It is obvious they have never fought together before, but well, their loss is his gain, and thanks to them, he has leveled up 11 times. The downside is that as his level increases in this way, which basically turns ice particles into a chaotic mess of destruction, and figures that by now the players should have realized they are not equipped to deal with him. But apparently, common sense is not their strong suit, because they come. He notices Zagan approaching. Unlike the rest of the Guide of Sin members he has encountered, this one actually looks stronger. Zagan, on the other hand, is busy checking our boy up and trying to figure out why his power is completely off the charts. And then it clicks, and he assumes that our hero is a dragon. The other players immediately go pale, because if our boy really is a dragon, they might as well dig their own graves. Even the weakest dragon can tear through dimensions, and taking one down is impossible unless one is some absurdly high-level dark being. And the MC, he does not confirm it and neither denies it. He just smirks and gives them a challenge to do whatever they can. Zagan has no interest in picking a fight if our hero is truly a dragon, and bows respectfully to let him pass. The other players stare and are dumbfounded that Zagan, the terrifying force of destruction, is just giving up. The warrior ghost tries to hold in his laughter but fails and bursts out in amusement. Our boy turns to him and asks about dragons. Zagan's face immediately twists in rage as he realizes that he was being played. With fury bubbling inside him, Zagan activates Decaravia's distorted vegetation and sends thick roots to grab the MC. But our hero burns through them with a fireball. Zagan then summons Decaravia's raven spirit, and a swarm of shadowy birds surrounds our boy. He starts slashing through them, but there are just too many. As he struggles, he realizes he did not even know magic could create creatures like this. The warrior ghost explains that of course he would not know, as his magic comes from the leader, and is completely different from the version's dark being use. Sagan is now beyond irritated, as this fight is between him and our hero alone. The warrior ghost assures him that he has no intention of helping our hero. That is when Zagan pauses, and to him, it seems like our boy and the warrior don't get along, and honestly, that is great news for him. He does not dwell on it for long. He has a fight to win. He then unleashes Marcosia's fake flame. The MC counters with frost arrows, but they do absolutely nothing, so he uses attack nullification. Zagan freezes as he had no idea such a skill existed, But then, after using it a second time, our hero actually takes damage. That is all the proof Zagan needs that this guy also has no clue how his skills work. He prepares his next move, Neburosa's Despair. Up. Black magic spell that strikes at the very core of the mind. A dark void swallows our boy and traps him. The warrior ghost mentions that black magic is absurdly difficult to counter at first. Even he struggled when he faced it. But he also knows it very well that the MC is built different. And sure enough, our boy shatters through the magic and expresses interest in learning it himself. Zagan is now furious beyond anything, and he summons the Raven Spirit again. Our hero sees that each bird is weak, but their overwhelming numbers make them a problem. He uses repulsion and sends a shockwave that blasts them away. The fight drags on and our boy notices something odd. Zagan's flames earlier were supposed to burn through everything. Yet he only got mildly burnt, and when he touched the fire, it did not even feel like real flames. That is when it clicks to him that's Zagan just could not believe it that a mere mortal actually figured it out. In anger, he activates the distorted vegetation again, but the MC has seen this trick before. The roots emerge in the exact same pattern and are predictable. He takes 3 steps left, 2 forward, and dodges them all. The warrior ghost watches in awe as he realizes that our hero's greatest strength is not just his power, but also his ability to adapt. Meanwhile, Zagan is finally down and defeated, but our boy does not finish him off just yet. There is one last thing he wants to know, which is how to master black magic. The MC has always thought black magic is an exclusive club for dark being, and no humans are allowed. But according to Zagan, that is no entirely true. Black magic runs on dark being energy and mana, and while dark being energy originally comes from, well, dark being, this labyrinth has its own set of rules. Here, if someone meets the right conditions, they can get their hands on it too. The trick is meeting there the leader. Apparently, the leader has a soft spot for talented individuals, and if our boy can impress them and survive their little test. Our boy turns to the warrior ghost and asks where he can find the leader. The ghost rummages through his memories and vaguely recalls that they are not too far. Meanwhile, Zagan has a simple request for our hero to just kill him already, without any offerings to the leader. The MC grants his wish, and in return, he levels up and gets a new black magic skill, Marcosius Fake Flame. The spell let him summon flames controlled by the dark being Marcosius, which sounds cool except that he cannot actually use it yet, because obviously he still does not have dark being energy. Pushing that minor inconvenience aside, he turns his attention to the adventurers lurking outside. He wants them to come in and face him, and after some hesitation, they finally do, but shaking like leaves in a storm. When they nervously ask what he wants, he answers plainly that he wants experience points and stats. Originally, he had thought about wiping them all out, but at his current level, that would not do much for his growth, so instead he makes a deal. If they want to keep breathing, they have to report to the higher-ups that he has died in a battle against Zagan. In other words, they are to lie and make sure the guide. Faced with the option of dying or playing along, they agree faster than he expects. Still, he turns to the warrior ghost just to be sure to spare them or not. The ghost is not particularly bothered since they are not the ones who have ended his life. But he does have one burning question for the second-tier representative about the identity of the very being who gave the order to kill him. The man hesitates, but in the end, he spills the truth that the culprit is Societe Gardentia, someone from the doomed kingdom's bloodline. Now that hits differently. Of all people, Societe is the last person the warrior has expected. Actually got along well as much as one can in a death maze. Meanwhile, Junyuk and Taeyun return with good news that they have successfully completed Veltazahar's trial. The test has forced them to confront their worst fears. Taeyun had to face a giant spider, while Junyuk had been pitted against an elephant. The conversation makes our boy wonder what kind of nightmare would have popped up if it had been him taking the trial. After parting ways, our hero turns back to the warrior ghost for a full explanation of his past. But according to the warrior, there is not some. He came from a ruined place, wandered into the labyrinth, and spent his days surrounded by monsters that don't understand a word he says. Societe had been the only one he can hold an actual conversation with, and that connection had meant something to him. But he reassures the MC that this revelation does not change his current mission. With that wrapped up, our boy pushes forward and clears both the 14th and 15th floors. Before heading to the 16th, he decides to pay Lilith a visit. From her, he gains 2 new magic abilities, Transparency and it is Lilith's first time seeing slow magic in action. So she excitedly asks him to try it on her, and so he does. She finds it fascinating until they hit a small problem. He has no idea how to stop it. Luckily, the magic wore off after 10 minutes. Now with everything sorted, the MC steps onto the 16th floor. According to the second-tier representative, in an empty room, he will find exactly the very blacksmith he is looking for. Our boy remembers how Taeyun once described Hafren as a man as cold as a block of ice, who never showed emotions and treated her strictly as a business. But after enduring endless mockery from NPCs and the leader in the labyrinth, she had actually come to appreciate his indifference. Hafren explains to our hero that monsters in the labyrinth drop 2 things, equipment and materials. Materials are either sold or used to craft gear, and if the MC hands them over, Hafren will make the equipment. As a special first-time offer, he even agrees to do it for free. But before our boy can make any offer, Hafren recognizes the warrior ghost, which is shocking for the warrior. Hafren admits he figured both of them had already kicked the bucket, considering all the chaos with the Guide of Sin. Not that he particularly cares, because as long as the materials keep coming, he is not interested in the status of his clients. To avoid unnecessary drama, he also warns them not to offer him some exclusive contract. Our boy gets to the point and requests a wrist guard. Hafren takes the materials and tells him to come back in half an hour. Rather than twiddling his thumbs, our hero decides to clear another floor while waiting. When he returns, he'll have to hand over the wrist guard. The MC tries it on and finds it decent enough and is ready to leave until the warrior ghost decides to. He points out that Hafren is capable of making something way better. Hafren of course knows that too, but insists he is missing a few things. The warrior ghost, however, is not talking about minor limitations. He means the rare power-infused equipment that only Hafren can create. Our boy is completely lost and asks what they are on about. The warrior ghost explains that Hafren is similar to him, with one big difference, that Hafren can actually go back to his world. Hafren questions whether our boy is even worthy of knowing such secret. The warrior ghost drops the fact that our hero defeated the Guide of Sin from the 30th floor, despite only being on the 13th. Hafren, however, is not buying it. To prove their claim, he sets a challenge that if the MC can defeat the monster he has prepared, he will acknowledge them without any arguments. The warrior ghost checks if the MC is up for it, and explains that he suggested this because the timing felt perfect. Our boy, who is always eager to get stronger, does not hesitate, though a small part of him wonders if this is really worth the trouble. The warrior ghost assures him that it absolutely is. Hafren returns after wrapping up it, and the MC and the warrior ghost meet a sealed bar log. The warrior ghost instantly recognizes it because of course it's one of those nightmares lurking on the deeper floors. Hafren explains that our boy has nothing to worry about. Apparently, this once terrifying creature has been falling apart over time, and is now barely on par with a boss from the later half of the 20th floor. Our hero accepts the challenge. The moment Hafren releases the bar log, it rushes forward and blasts out a wave of demonic energy. The MC sidesteps like it's nothing and slows them on, down with a spell, and then unloads a barrage of fireballs and frost arrow. Hafren is left staring like he just saw a ghost, except the actual ghost presence seems just as stunned, and our boy is not just outperforming his own stat. His spiritual power enhancement skill not only boosts his abilities, but also lets him borrow his opponent's tricks. Before the barlog even knows, our hero finishes it off.